Tick tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood, and with me now is the apostate prophet. And somehow I got through my TikTok time to rock. It actually worked. Weird.
Because I was eating, I wasn't ready. So
that's the ticket. We need AP eating at the beginning of every show, and that way he won't be talking as much.
I was eating these nuts, and I'm done with them now. So I've been recommended to eat nuts, which is apparently good for my condition. So I've been eating these nuts. And, yeah.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got gout, the cure is these nuts. Hey, Michael Editan just joined as a channel member. Check it out. All right, hey, so guys, we are going to go through Jordan Peterson's new video. It's actually a little on the long side. I'm not sure we'll get through it because, well, there's lots to talk about. So Jordan Peterson, it's actually been an interesting journey because when he first came out and would say anything about Islam, usually like in the Q&A at one of his talks, he clearly didn't know much about Islam, and yet he would say kind of like how things seemed to him. So you remember he had his famous warlord, Muhammad was a warlord clip.
Muhammad was a warlord.
Yeah,
I didn't know what to do about that.
Yeah, so someone challenged him in the audience, like, hey, so what do you think about this? What about Islam and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, if I'm examining, the first thing I have to think about is Muhammad was a warlord, which is entirely correct. He's an Arabian warlord. Join me. We've got a big gang. We're going to go around fighting people and taking their stuff and taking their women and taking their daughters and taking all their stuff. That's what we're going to do. Okay, you're a warlord. That's what a warlord is. So he stated the obvious. But then, keep in mind, he did not know a lot about Islam. He's just, okay, he knows the bare minimum, which is Muhammad's going around subjugating people in Arabia. And so he says warlord. Then, for a while, he goes on his Building Bridges tour.
Man, was that a disaster.
Yeah, that did not work out. Yeah. And so that's when he was like interviewing Muslims, getting Muhammad hijab and other Muslims on his channel for interviews, having these discussions, and really seemed to think, because keep in mind, back then, his opponent is like the far left and the people who try to cancel you and stuff like that. And he's thinking, Muslims could be allies if they were on our side and not always aligned with the extreme left. So I'll build some bridges. I'll start talking to these guys and I'll win their hearts. And he was trying that for a while, even when it didn't seem like it was going to be working. He still kept doing it. And then what was his awesome pen pal? He had his pen pal video, right, where he figured out the solution.
This message to Muslims, hey y'all, and I was like,
how about find a pen pal? Find the pen pal. Yeah, I don't know, talk to each other. You'll make it work. You'll find a way.
So he thought he had figured out how to bring peace to the world and to unite Muslims with everyone else and how to make their hearts melt. And so the solution was, we're not kidding, guys. The solution was get a pen pal. And he really thought that first he was just talking about Sunnis and Shias. So it's like, hey, learn to get Sunnis and Shias, become pen pals with each other and start writing each other. And then you'll become friends. And then after that, you can get a Christian pen pal. And then you could start going back and forth with Christians. And then, well, once you've started moving in that direction, you'll eventually be able to have a Jewish pen pal. Problems solved. So we knew that was going to work. We knew that was an absolute. Hang on, what's this? I can't hear anything. Then fix your computer. King Lear's gesture.
Turn up the volume.
Yeah. I see other people commenting and making fun of the pen pal thing. What's that mean? It means they heard it. So why are you complaining to us that your computer's not working, or that you don't have your volume on, or that you've silenced your computer, or that your computer's broken? All right. After that rude interruption. So he had his pen pal thing, and we knew that wasn't going to work. And then it became clear that things were breaking down. And then the real turning point was the October 7th attack, when he dared say
Oh yeah.
that Israel should go in there. And what did he say? I think he said something like, give them hell.
Yeah. His response to the October 7th attack was, "Give him hell," and he attacked Benjamin Netanyahu.
He tagged Netanyahu, and then guess who lost their minds and declared him their eternal enemy? And I was sitting there thinking, gosh, you guys don't know how dumb you are right now. You could be trying to get him to sympathize with you. Could be going, hi, Jordan, we understand you. Maybe you're not familiar with all the details of this conflict, but here's our perspective, and here's why we feel the way we do. Can you understand? Can you understand what? You could have come at him like that. Instead, it was heap insults and abuse on him. And all I was thinking was the same thing I always say. They don't understand different personality types at all. Zero, right? It's always the exact same method. You do what we want, we shower you with praise. If you do what we don't want, we shower you with insults and abuse. And the goal is, if we shower you with enough insults and abuse, then eventually you just keep your mouth shut and you won't ever think about saying one word of criticism against us. And that's the method, because that works with lots of people. In fact, that works with most people. There are some people that it does not work. Like, it does not work with us. If you do that, you just annoy us, and then we come at you even harder. And it doesn't work with Jordan Peterson. I'm thinking, how could you not know that about him? It's the most obvious characteristic of him if you've been following him for 10 or 15 years since he's become a popular figure. You can't shout the guy down. You can't. I mean, we saw this. Him completely surrounded by mobs of students screaming at him, and he just keeps going relentlessly. That's not a guy you shout down. That's not a guy you insult down. You have to make some sort of connection with him and get him to see your perspective. Then he's interested and so on. They didn't do that. They showered him. They rained down a volley of insults and abuse on him, and now he has got a different perspective, it seems, on Islam, and is actually learning the statistics on what's going on and what Muslims actually believe and why you can't attribute this to a tiny minority of extremists and so on. He's learning that a lot of the problems are actually mainstream Islam.
The funny thing is that he, as it seems, he's still kind of being very, very reserved in his response to Muslims and all that. He still doesn't say exactly what he thinks at all times. He kind of approaches the situation with a little bit of a little bit care, a little bit. He hesitates a little bit, but he is quite aware now that these people are unhinged and that you can't just come and sit down and talk and everything is good. You can't just do that with these people. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So he is, and it's just amazing. I still can't get over the fact this could have been their ally. Things could be very different right now if they had one drop of common sense in the Dawa community. They would be thinking, hey, Jordan Peterson has a lot of people who sort of roll with him, and he has a lot of followers, and he's interested in building bridges. Let's build some bridges and get this guy on our side. They didn't. They declared war on him because he dared state that Hamas should be crushed. And that was it. So that all went bye-bye. And now Jordan Peterson is starting to talk a bit more about mainstream Islamic belief, and it's pretty glorious. You can silence coughs and sneezes.
This was completely unexpected.
Turkish people have no manners.
It's completely unexpected, man. They came out of nowhere. I glitched.
Oh,
I normally don't sneeze. For those who think
you normally feel like coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I never sneeze. I never do it. For those who misunderstand and who think I sneeze like all other humans, I don't actually do that. This was completely unexpected.
Yes, because he's a prophet. When he sneezes, the stars are formed. Let's take these first couple of super chats and then we'll jump into this Jordan Peterson video where he's a little philosophical at times, but man, he turned out not to be a fan of the spread of Islam. Interesting. Fun watch.
I don't buy your Islam.
I don't buy your G Fire Block. Nice. Evening, you handsome pair. I really admire you both.
Thank you. We admire you too.
Thank you for reacting to this. JP has clearly been thinking about how to articulate this for a while. Yet one thing that concerns me is his video did not get a ton of views. I mean, it was at like 150,000 when I saw it yesterday. It's at like 150,000, which is, for a regular channel, that would be a ton of views. When he's got like whatever it is, 6 or 7 million subscribers, those aren't good numbers. And so I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if his fans are not interested in it, or I'm wondering if like YouTube, because he's talking about the grooming gangs and so on, is actually what do they call that? Shadow banning? I don't know about shadow banning, but maybe it's not being promoted even like to his followers very much because of the topic. I don't know. And he does talk about grape a lot, so maybe the algorithm's picking up on that and not spreading it to as many people or something like that. Or I forget if I checked if it was I didn't see any sort of age restriction or anything. But anyway, not sure why. That's not because it's a good video.
What you just said doesn't make any sense. You said it didn't get a ton of views, but you then said it's got over 100,000 views, and if it got over 100,000 views, it technically got like over 100 tons or something. So, not sure what you're talking about.
What are you babbling about? Turkish people, man. Muhammad was a warlord and a gay lord. What? True, but we're not talking about that right now. 8:42 minutes late. AP should rename himself rename himself to Always Pending after he gets baptized. So we've been talking about you getting a new name, and Always Pending is one of them. Pro Hamus, PhD student, runs away from USA to Canada. Oh, really? Did that happen? Is that news? I see they've been they rounded up that one guy and stuff like that. No, this wouldn't surprise me. Matter of fact, I did see something I think yesterday about someone they called it something when you're preemptively getting out of there. I forget what they said, but yeah, that might have happened right there. AP is in awe of my comment. That's true.
Yes.
Warlords, do you like that booty? Yes, that's what warlords promise. Remember when he thought Mojab was a scholar? Did he? Did he think Muhammad Mojab was a scholar?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, that's funny. The Prophet of Allah enjoyed my... What is this? I can't even read this stuff. Secrets of Dihya 6. Not even going to say the reference number. Jihad Mickey says, I was reading Acts and all of a sudden a guy and his wife dropped dead for lying to Peter. Yeah, you find something similar in the Old Testament when things are kind of starting off. You find people like God put his hand on the Ark of the Covenant and so on, and does not go well for him. But yeah, no, they pointed out he's lying to God. They were lying to God. So, yeah, the story, guys, is you had two people in the early church, and you had that actually interesting chain of events, how Christianity spread so fast. This is actually tied to that. But you had the original church form in Jerusalem, and then it formed, interestingly enough. So Jesus is crucified at the time of the Passover. Going back before that, Israel had been conquered repeatedly by various groups. The Greeks, before that, you had the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and so on. Then you have the Persian Empire. You get the Greeks, the Romans, and so on. Anyway, Israel's been repeatedly conquered. And sometimes the conquering nations would deport massive parts of the population. You do that to destabilize the population. You deport them. And then sometimes they'd be allowed to come back. So when the Persian Empire conquered the Babylonians, they allowed the Jews to return. But you would end up with some Jews who stay in these other areas, and you end up with Jewish communities. Jewish communities spread across the known world at the time. And so you had all these Jewish communities, but they were commanded in the Old Testament. They're commanded in the Old Testament to, if they're able, to return for the big feasts, So people who are able to come back to Israel for the Feast of Passover, even if you're in Iraq or something like that, they would try to do that. So anyway, Jesus is crucified during the time of the Passover. And so you've got a public crucifixion at the time of, right at the time of the Passover festival. And then rumors start spreading that this guy actually rose from the dead. And then you have the next big festival. The next big festival comes up, and that's when the Holy Spirit descends on the church. And you remember that passage in Acts chapter 2, when you had all these people from all these different nations, and they're all sitting there saying, hey, we're all hearing these guys speaking in our own language. What is this? What's going on here? And so you get thousands of converts very early on there. You get thousands of converts. Where are those converts from? They're from all sorts of different countries and different cities and so on. And a bunch of them stay there. So to learn to learn about Jesus from the apostles. So they stay there. Oh. Got this? So they stay there. But guess what? They're from other places. So what happens? Christians who have things start selling their possessions to fund this early Christian community and stuff, because these guys are from completely different parts of the world. So they start, the Christians start selling stuff to fund what they're doing. And then you had two people who claimed that they were giving their money from what they had sold to the early church, and they were actually keeping it, and they dropped dead. And so that was an early warning. Do not use all this, what's going on, for your own, to look good and to aggrandize. Don't do this for self-aggrandizement. By the way, little follow-up. What happens after that? So you have this early Christian community, and they spend a couple years learning from the apostles, directly from the apostles. And then what happens? A persecution breaks out against Christians in Israel. And it says, so all these people went to their homes. What just happened? You had, look at how all this tied together for the gospel. Why did all these people come to Jerusalem? For the festivals. They were commanded to do that. Why were they in all these other cities? Because of all the times Israel had been conquered and their people had been spread around the world. And what happens when the church is formed? All these people are in Jerusalem again for the festival. And so what do? Then they stay there to learn from the people who knew Jesus best. And how do they stay there? Well, you had some Christians who had money. They sell their stuff and to support this early community. And then what happens? Persecution breaks out. And they don't want to stay there anymore. So what do? They go back to their homes. And now in cities around the known world, in many languages, you had Christian preachers who learned Christianity directly from the apostles. I'm putting all of this out, AP, because you remember that interview with Muhammad Hijab and Jordan Peterson, and Hijab said that, Islam conquered so many lands so rapidly that it's miraculous. And Jordan Peterson said, why didn't it work in Europe, eh? And he said, well, it didn't work there. Allah had no power in Europe. How can you think Allah is powerful?
It wasn't successful there.
Mm-hmm.
That was his response.
Yep. And so, my point here is there's nothing miraculous about telling a bunch of guys, hey, join me and fight for me. And if we go out, we'll take everyone's stuff. And if you die, then you'll go to paradise and spend eternity deflowering virgins. Allahu Akbar. There's no mystery about why that would spread very quickly. Christianity early on spread very rapidly for a different reason. But when you line it up, it's like, look at this amazing collection of events that all came together so that no matter how much the Roman Empire tries to crack down on Christianity, they can't stop it because it spread too rapidly. And that did look miraculous. Anyone else call D. Wood and AP the boys?
I do. I call them the boys.
What does this mean? Hub and all the boys are on. What is that?
Hubal. Hubna.
Hubin.
Hubinai. Oh, Hubinai.
Hubinai. Oh, okay. Husband and I, the boys are on.
Yes, that's what it means.
The boys. That's at with like Homelander and stuff. Seen a bunch of clips of that.
It's very, very gay.
Oh no. Okay, the boys aren't the ones. The boys aren't Homelander. The boys are the guys who are fighting against that guy. Yeah, I don't know all the details, but I've seen a bunch of the clips.
It's all gay.
I actually wanted to. There's a character named Starlight who gives a speech about God and Christianity, and I wanted to make a response video to that, but
You wanted to make a
I was always thinking
what to a show on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. But I was thinking they would probably have pretty strict copyright stuff if I'm like responding to their little speech that they give. Anyway, we'll see what happens. AP, where is a Jew behind me song? Love you, boys.
Well, after I attempted to publish my first songs on the music channel, and YouTube immediately responded by taking down the whole channel, I kind of got weirded out, and I thought, okay, what am I supposed to publish?
They do discourage people from doing stuff, trying new stuff, because they never understand the new stuff. So when they see a song that's oh Nasrallah, whatever you were making, their morons on the trust and safety team have trouble distinguishing, because I had to deal with this problem for years. With Islamicize Me, they would repeatedly ban episodes of Islamicize Me, thinking I'm supporting ISIS, and we're making fun of them. Do you not understand the difference between making fun of something and supporting it? And so, yes, these would be exactly the kind of people who go, oh my goodness, it's a song celebrating a terrorist. No, it's a song making fun of that.
The thing is still banned. A giant DOC's channel is still banned, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Their channel is still banned over a misunderstanding, over a false report. They still haven't reinstated their account.
It is complete incompetence.
Very, very stupid, ridiculous system of banning and reinstating and checking and manual checking. They say manually reviewed, but they don't actually manually review it, or somebody just looks at it for a second and is like, oh, it doesn't look right to me, and then dismisses it, and then somebody else has to come again, and it takes a few weeks again. It's so ridiculous. They have a horrible system in place.
It's massively incompetent, and as you pointed out, it's discouraging if you're trying something. You're like, hey, I'm going to make songs, and it's like, first song, ban. It's like, okay, I guess I can't make songs because these guys are too stupid to understand the point of the song is to make fun of terror and not to support it. Bunch of idiots. But that's life. Justified Concordian says, howdy gents, off topic, but have you seen Muslim Cowboys tweets today? Pretty funny how stupid they are. I saw one that Inspiring Philosophy had shared. I don't even remember what it was, but I responded. Inspiring Philosophy was challenging to debate what he just said. And I said, Muslim Cowboy's he's too much of a coward. He's not going to debate anyone. And I said he should change his name to the Muslim Coward.
Christians and Jews, are you willing to bet your eternity on a book that is inauthentic and non-authoritative? Find out why here.
Non-authoritative? Ooh, that sounds like a good little... I might screenshot those. This would be a good little introduction to the Islamic dilemma. We've got an Islamic dilemma project going on in the community. For those of you who are in the Act 17 community, we will be... I'll probably post a video telling everyone, outlining what the plan is and a little time frame. I'll probably post that tomorrow. And then we'll start off with a couple little preliminary tasks to get everyone warmed up, because not everyone is actually familiar with the argument. And then we'll set things up for our first couple of chapters readings and so on. So we'll start that. But so the point was, this would be a good time to actually expose the stupidity of claims like this, where all Allah and Muhammad ever say are confirming the inspiration, the preservation, and the authority of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, and yet you have people like the Muslim Cowboy who say the opposite because they just don't care what Allah and Muhammad say. They don't. They can say they do. They don't. Anyway, this is the year that all gets exposed.
Hey, did you see what's going on in Syria today?
Nope.
Syria and Lebanon. Right now. Hezbollah abducted and apparently killed or executed members of the Syrian government, of the Syrian Islamist government, of the HDS.
Wait, what happened? Who did that?
Hezbollah did. So Hezbollah abducted leaders or members of the Syrian Islamist government and executed them. And as soon as that happened, the Syrian government just started lining up their militants and firing at Lebanon, at Hezbollah. They're literally they're going hard at each other. They didn't even hesitate. They just started firing immediately.
I could have told you they weren't going to hesitate. I could have told you that. You're dealing you're dealing with some people who are already massively ticked off. One, they're ticked off for stuff that goes all the way back to the early formation of the Sunni and Shia split and so on. They still fight over stuff that happened back then. So one, you have many centuries, over 1,000 years of fighting and animosity and hatred. Then you have the recent hostilities because they've been killing each other and stuff. And you take the guys who were on the receiving end of a lot of these attacks, the Sunnis, at the hands of the Assad regime and Hezbollah and so on. And then they finally get power, and you're like, now that these guys have power over a bunch of us and are completely taking over the country, now's a good time to kill some of them. No, they're instantly going to start killing you in response. And, well, I don't know. Doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Powerful. So the funny thing is that after Israel just blew their balls off, they decided to just pick up a fight with the other Islamists. So I don't know. Now it's just this is just basically a vindication of Israel, right? Of Israel's actions against Hezbollah.
Yeah, and guys, you catch that? So Hezbollah had been fighting the Sunnis and had been working with the Assad regime and so on. So they had been doing that, and they'd been successful. And then they're like, we are so successful, we will attack Israel and launch bombs on them for a whole year, and they will not do anything back. And then Israel blows all their testicles off and takes out their entire leadership in a couple days.
Wow.
And then what happens? Then they can't defend Assad. Assad gets toppled. And now they're like, what do we want to do? Let's attack somebody. We have to attack somebody. We are jihadis. Should we attack Israel? No, you stupid moron! We only have 2 testicles among us anymore. We want to preserve them. Who will we attack? Okay, let's go with these Sunnis who just took over Syria and still have the power to slaughter large numbers of our supporters over there. That'd be a good group to attack. Wait, but they will kill lots of. Okay, they're not going to blow our testicles off. They're not that smart. Okay, good point. Then we attack them. We do not want to mess with our testicles. So that's what's going on. Lisa says, hi, David, you were so funny last night. Hi, AP. That's funny. Cursed Mouse says, thank you for all you do. I made the decision to become Catholic. I'm starting my journey from a Jehovah's Witness family. The Trinity was difficult. You helped me see and believe. Much to you, AP, IP, and God Logic.
Very based.
AP is convincing people around the world to accept the Trinity. I sent Super Chat at 11:55 p.m. Can't see it. If it was before the show, I have no control over that. But yeah, once we start the show, the only Super Chats I see are the ones that are posted from the show.
To be fair, the person who says that they converted or they went from Jehovah's Witness to Catholic. I mean, don't stay Jehovah's Witness. Like, nothing against individual people who are part of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
AP hates Jehovah's Witnesses.
I actually had a friend when I was in Germany.
You didn't have a friend.
In 8th grade or so, one of my best friends was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was the nicest guy in the world.
You got a lot of really nice Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, but the thing is, they have a very messed up internal system of a really messed up internal repressive system. It's a typical cult. The way it treats people who leave, people who have doubts.
What doubts, man?
Doubts, man, and so on. It's just it's kind of a messed up movement, and yeah, whatever. Anyway,
wild stuff.
Just wanted to quickly rant about Jehovah's Witness. Anyway,
Big Rig says you can read it because that wasn't Dia, it was Gabriel.
You see,
yes, Muhammad said so. There was an interview JP did with Mo Hijab inside a mosque. That happened. I thought that was online.
Yeah, that was that second video where he was with Jonathan Peugeot and Hamza Tortoise. They were actually sitting inside a mosque
with Muhammad Hijab.
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I don't recall that. I recall seeing that there was something with Jonathan. I never even watched the interview with Hijab and Jordan Peterson. I only saw the clips we covered at some point.
I did watch it. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was
Interesting.
absolutely horrible. There was nothing redeeming about it. It
But
was so
but
bad.
I mean, think about it, guys. That's the point. This was a guy who sincerely was trying to build bridges with the Muslim community and get them to work together and so on, and found out, nope, these guys will declare war on you the moment you disagree with them, and that's not going to work.
The best thing, though, was still the best thing was still the discussion between Mohammed Hijab and Bart Ehrman. I will never forget that. I will never forget how much I laughed.
I didn't see that one either.
Watching that discussion. So stupid.
Funny. All right. Well, people are posting a bunch of super chats, but we've got to start the video, so I'll go through a couple more real quick, and then we'll jump in. Wonder when Western leaders will start taking Islam seriously. Poland and Hungary look promising. Others, not holding my breath. Yeah, I don't know that this is the case, but I've said it in the past. It seems like Eastern European nations and so on seem to recall more about dealing with Islam with the Ottoman Empire and stuff than Western European nations. And so it's not as easy to trick them into thinking that Islam isn't there to invade, because the Eastern European nations had been defending against Islam for a long time. Other places in Europe too, but it seemed the Ottoman Empire really tried to come up into Eastern Europe a bunch of times.
Yeah.
In your last live stream, AP, I was called the N-word. That's because compared to the whiteness of Pedomomo, AP is basically black as night. That's true.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, the spread of Christianity is way more miraculous. If you wrote a manual on how to take over the world, it wouldn't look like the New Testament. That is correct. It would look like Islam. Hey, tell everyone, hey, fight for me, and if you succeed, you take everyone's stuff and take everyone's wives and daughters, and if you lose, you spend eternity deflowering virgins, and say this to a bunch of people who are obsessed with boning lots of girls and stuff, and you've got a recipe for taking over the world.
That's what I would do.
That's not joking. If I wanted to take over the world and I had absolutely no morals about how to do it, I would come up with a message exactly like Islam. I would say, hey, what is every perverse desire you have as far as power, sex, stuff, everything? And say, yes, now God really wants you to do all that stuff. Every sick thing that pops in your head, God wants you to do that. Banging little girls, all that. God wants you to do all of that. He's on your side and wants you to do that. But you can only do that within the context of this expanding empire. You have to do it the Islamic way. Every other way is haram. And that's a recipe for taking over the world. Paulo says, I never seen AP laugh so hard when he saw the comment said Daily Wood. That is true. It's like, never seen AP laugh so hard when he saw that comment that said Daily Wood. Glad you said it twice. That was true.
I don't know why, but that got me so, but it was unexpected. It killed me. I don't know.
There's random stuff like that makes me crack up too. Daily Wire and Associated Press. You gotta be kidding. That's true. Have you guys seen Hassan's fans going after Ethan Klein, calling CPS on his kids for not being progressive enough and condemning Hamas? It's insane. Haven't been attention to all that stuff.
No, I'm not paying attention.
FYI, started my journey after October 7th by reading Robert Spencer and his channels. So grateful for you all. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Jordan Peterson in the Boom Boom Room. I'd have to lose like 25 pounds just to play the role. Hezbollah is fighting I might need to lose like 50 pounds to play Jordan Peterson. Hezbollah is fighting the Jew-controlled Syrian government, according to Syrian Girl. Hezbollah is fighting the Jew-controlled Syrian government, according to Syrian Girl. Next space is right now. Yes, that is. The Jews are always behind everything, according to Syrian Girl. Hey, actually, we almost got through the super chats. Yeah, let's go through. No, but seriously, you guys have to continue creating those creative videos with songs. Honestly, we as fans wait for that kind of stuff, and I feel like it could also make you famous around the world. I agree, AP. They caught on that it was a mistake, and you often play them in your videos and stuff, and you can always release them on other platforms, and you could even release them on like I don't know what the music platforms are, like Spotify or something like that.
Spotify.
So you had. Yeah, so you should. People want you to continue with your music career. That Zabiba song and Gregorian chant made me laugh hard.
That was good.
Any Zabiba song is a good song. Is JP a Christian? Yes or no? Asking because I don't know really. It kind of depends. I have seen him affirm Jesus, death, resurrection, and divine nature. Like he said Jesus is God. But what does he mean by those things? That's a different story. So it's kind of gonna have to depend on how, when you're saying is this guy a Christian or not, it's gonna, one, I don't know what he means a lot of the time when he's talking. So I don't even know, like, what do you mean by that? Even when he explains it, I'm like, well, what exactly does that mean? So it's kind of a tough call. But whatever the case may be, you can say he's been heading in the right direction for a long time, right?
Yes.
What do you mean long time?
Odds on ripping a Quran page, and can you guys do more apologetics with God Logic or IP? Odds on ripping a Quran page. Wait, so you're saying, actually, seriously, I don't like doing it. I don't like doing it by random request because then it defeats the purpose of when someone crosses a line and we do it. So
yeah. It's very disrespectful.
Yeah, sometimes we will, sometimes we do just fire off and do it, but because we kind of want to normalize it. But at the same time, you want these guys to understand it's because of your actions that we're doing this, and your actions are causing us to do this.
And it's very disrespectful too.
Yeah. Plus, we're genuine. We're generally very respectful people. As far as God Logic and IP, yeah, God Logic and IP are in our big Quran project coming up. So we'll be doing stuff. Oh boy, from the creek to the open sea. What's that mean? What's that? Oh,
from the river to the sea.
Oh, from the creek. Oh yeah, creek. I forgot. Yeah, because they call the Jordan River. I'll say it again, ladies and gentlemen. It's called the Jordan River. If you look at it, it is what we in West Virginia would call a creek. It looks almost like you could, if you were a good athlete, it looks like you could jump across it. William said, sent before the stream, but an old stream you said, John Fontaine sounds like a doo-wop singer. It totally does. John Fontaine is the name of the singer in The Godfather. Oh, yeah. Perfect. That makes sense then. And MBS, you were never really a real atheist. Just kidding. I myself go to Hindu temples with family, but I don't believe. Are you truly convinced, or is it just a leap of faith?
Me? Good question. Depends on what you mean by truly convinced, but I would say that describing it more as a leap of faith would be, it's actually a better description. Yeah.
And
I know I didn't think of just saying it like that, but it's actually a good description. It's also there is a part of me, and it's just I'm not sure how to say this because people expect like whoa, and this also contradicts how I approached religion in the past, and people are going to say, oh, why would you join something without knowing it's 100% true? But the thing is, I started practicing not because I was convinced that it's true, but rather because I felt like it is better, and I would hope that it's true, and it might be true, and I might just simply not know. And there are lots of things about it that I'm not able to completely refute, and all that. And I thought to myself, I could simply start going that way. What is there to lose anyway? It's also kind of funny because David, like many others, have often said that if you are an atheist, it's basically you exist, you live, you go through life, you search, you analyze, and so on. You believe in what is true and what is not true, and then in the end you die. That's it. That's it. You're dead. So living a life of an atheist doesn't really lead anywhere. In the end, you just die anyway. And if the whole world all exists for no other bigger purpose, no greater purpose, all of existence is just going to exist and at some point cease existing, or it will just exist forever and ever and ever for no purpose at all. So if then in the middle of this, right, if in the middle of this religion is true, or Christianity is true, you could add some great purpose to your life and live a meaningful, great life. believing that Christianity is true is actually a better way to look at the world than believing that there is no God and atheism is the correct analysis. If you live your life being convinced that atheism is the correct analysis, it's just you just live your life and you die in the end anyway. What would be so bad about simply choosing to live a Christian life, for example, if the Christian life is going to look better for you? For me, I would say, after many years of consideration, looking at a Christian life seemed to be a much better option for me. It's a much better option, and it's a much happier option. It's a much more it's an option with much more serenity, with much more meaning, instead of the whole the void and the hopelessness, the nothingness. I always forever just depended on simply wanting to pursue truth and always go with what I am 100% sure of. When I went to church, I actually had a conversation with an Orthodox Christian monk, and he said something very, very interesting, which kind of changed everything about how I viewed the world. And I'm not entirely sure how I can express or paraphrase what he said to me. I kind of wish I had that recorded or something. But he basically, after I told him that for the last 10 years I only pursued the facts and only went for something if I knew that it's 100% true, he said to me, with Christianity, nobody ever expects you to know that something is 100% true, which is why we call it faith. If with something else, like with atheism, you want to go for it and you want to make your next step always knowing that whatever you make a step toward is 100% true, then you are going to make steps and rely only on your mind. You will be led by your mind, by a mind that you yourself know is very limited and very weak, like all of our minds. And in the end,
sorry.
In the end, you will not become a Christian, but rather try to find meaning and find a solution to things in your life. But the irony of it is that you will live your life with all of your skepticism, and in the end, you will not be able to help yourself. You will simply die and then cease existing. What's the point of that? You didn't really help yourself. All you did was just to be skeptical and then to die. Why not just go this path? And I thought, you know what? That's kind of an interesting way to look at things. It makes more sense than what I did for the last 10 years. Anyway, long story short, it was kind of a leap of faith.
Yeah, and when I was in a jail cell, and I thought I had come up with the design argument. It turns out other people came up with the design argument long before me. Came up with a kind of moral argument. Thought I invented that. Turns out people had come up with a moral argument long before me, and started concluding that it looked like there was actual good evidence for Jesus' resurrection. Thought that I came up with the conclusion about how the apostles died, suggested that they really believed what they were dying for, and therefore that they actually saw something. And then the question becomes, what did they see that convinced these guys that a person who had been crucified had appeared to them later? What could account for this, and so on? Anyway, but you put all that together, and I can't say I was like completely or even close to completely convinced. So it was more along the lines of, okay, here's my position and my trajectory now. And I thought there was no way I was going to take seriously this message of Christianity because I thought it was stupid and completely wrong. So I wasn't even considering that. But now that I see, okay, they've actually got a case from design and they got a case from a moral argument for God's existence, and they actually have a case for the resurrection and for Christianity being true. At that point, it wasn't, I know that this is correct or I'm completely convinced of this. It's, okay, I know what I have on this trajectory, and this may be the trajectory that I'm on, but I'd kind of be stupid given my circumstances not to say, well, okay, why don't I check this out a bit more? Why don't I take a look at this a bit more? Why don't I try praying and see what happens? If not, I already know where I'm going. The doctor was saying he was going to tube feed me. The psychiatrist was saying she wants to send me to a more permanent mental hospital and so on. And it's like, okay, I know where I'm going on this road. Why don't I pray and see what happens? And if that turns out to be true, if Christianity is actually true, maybe there's a different path for me. And here we are many decades later, crushing Islam and atheism. Powerful and based. So yes. So anyway, the point was we have a similarity. We have a similarity there, in that we're both at the beginning saying, I'm not sure this is true, but this has some things going for it, and so I shouldn't just be discounting this when there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot at stake about my life and so on this issue. So it's something that needs to be taken seriously. So anyone out there who's in that situation where I don't know what's true, I don't know what to believe and so on, you might want to take a look at the claims of Christianity, because a lot's riding on these issues.
And a loser.
Let's see. JP said Jesus was the Son of God in the diaries of a CEO about 9 months ago. Yeah, and then in a recent discussion, he said Jesus is God. So that's what I mean. He's all the things that he's supposed to say, he's saying. All the Christian things he's supposed to say, he's saying. It's just, what does he mean by them? Because he very frequently does not mean what other people mean. And that's why it was actually good when Cosmic Skeptic Alex O'Connor actually got him. He kept pressing him on the issue until he got to the point where, if there was a camera outside of Jesus' tomb, would it have recorded him walking out of the tomb? And Peterson said, yeah, he thinks so. Which means, okay, you are saying something similar to what Christians are saying. Wow, imagine being scared to rip a Quran page. Well, if you're saying I'm scared, that's a different story. That's a different story. Think I'm scared? Think I'm scared? Huh? You think I'm chicken? Huh? You think I'm yellow? Huh? That looks scared to you? Yeah, who's scared now, huh? On the road, here's my jizya. Thanks for everything, AP. Couldn't be happier for you. I love the Orthodox churches in Ukraine.
Thank you.
Shout out to West Virginia, the best state. Yeah, until it got ruined by drugs. Used to be all hunting and fishing and camping and building forts in the woods and canoeing and all that stuff. And now it's all fentanyl, heroin. DP and AP Live is 100, but Super Chat names class. Yeah, that's true. Lots of cool Super Chat names. AP, only atheist XP ever host ever to become Christian.
Is that true? I wonder.
True? What's an XP host?
Atheist Experience.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Wait, did you host it?
Yeah, I hosted it a few times. 2 or 3 times.
In your face, Atheist Experience. The
thing is,
how many more Atheist Experience hosts are going to become Christians?
At some point, I stopped hosting randomly, and people were like, "Where did he go? What happened? Did they kick him out?" I actually just stopped. At some point, I had personal issues again, depression issues, and all that, and didn't host when I had to. Somebody else did. Then I never get back to them, and said, "Hey, sorry guys." So kind of cut ties. I was also not really comfortable with hosting it because, I mean, no disrespect to them. I just thought it's not really my thing, The way they even as an atheist, the way Atheist Experience is, it's just not my thing. It was never really my thing.
Yeah, no disrespect to them, but I thought, these guys are losers. They're all losers. They're weaklings and losers. No, that actually makes sense, because I mean, think, guys, there are Christians I wouldn't want to work with just because, okay, that's not my thing there. So people have different ways of doing things, and so makes sense. Or You've got some atheists who went in one direction and some atheists who went in a different direction. And I have to say, I've seen a lot of people, like that guy from Mythbusters and lots of other guys who just said that they were originally part of like the new atheist stuff. And they said they eventually abandoned it because they're like, these guys are jerks, man. These guys are just annoying, like screaming, whining jerks. And they're like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. So that's not talking. He wasn't talking about the atheist experience. He's talking about like the general, oh, we're smart and everyone else is dumb. That actually turned off some people within the camps. Like, what? We're just going to sit around here boasting about being smart and say everyone else is stupid? No, I'm actually not interested in this. All right. Let's see. Do you believe that in more recent miracles like apparitions of Mary, healings and stuff like that? I believe that miracles occur. If you wanted but saying any specific thing, I'd have to actually look at the evidence. Shalom, nerds. I've heard you two have been exceptionally naughty lately, up to no good. This sort of lewd behavior will not be tolerated. Look at my eyes and repent. No, just kidding. What's up? Oh, it's Tovia Winger.
Tovia Winger.
Tovia Winger. Look, and it's got Winger, but he's got the he's got the Orthodox garb on.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Tovia Winger. That's pretty funny. I don't know. It sucks that I didn't read that name until after. All right, guys. Wow, that was glad we got through those super chats because I didn't know if we'd catch up if we start going through this video. But all right, here we go. You ready to start off? Jordan Peterson. This is his. We will have to. I don't know how strict he has his channel set up as far as playing clips. So I'll periodically stop it and so on to comment. If not, you get it taken down. Well, I'll show you.
Why
I'll do it until
has
we get a
the
copyright.
issue of sadistic mass rape on British soil reared its ugly head once again, this time on the international front? There are many reasons, but one is fundamental. The increasingly desperate need in the West for a serious discussion about the perils of an unthinking and self-aggrandizing multiculturalism, a word that in itself is primarily cliched advertisement for the self-proclaimed admirable and wondrous tolerance of the progressive hypocrites on the left and right alike.
You catch that?
Yeah.
So guys, what he was talking about there, why did the grooming gangs thing pop up again and become international? It's actually cool. Elon was responsible for a lot of that. That he drew attention to it. So you had the grooming gang scandal, which happened years ago, and then it got called out, and then people started getting arrested and so on. And then of course it dies down because no one wants to keep reporting on this stuff because it looks like you're Islamophobic. And then it popped up again. And it's interesting that Jordan Peterson is pointing out why this is an issue that keeps getting silence and suppressed and so on. And he points out it's basically a way for important people to pat themselves on the back for being so good. See how open-minded and tolerant and unbigoted and non-Islamophobic I am. I keep supporting these people who keep doing this to 12-year-old girls. See how good I am. It's like insane. That's why he calls it insane. All right, let's let him.
It's time for us in the free world to look at human beings and their various cultures as they truly are, and not as the good thinkers wish and then so dangerously insist that they must be.
I don't want to keep stopping, but I mean, these are like really, each one of these is like an important. I might just chop this whole thing up and put it in little tiny clips for Twitter. It's like, yeah, guys, do you understand? We need to start thinking about other cultures as they are and not as our people in universities think that these other cultures are or should be or what they are. It's like, pay attention to what they actually observe and look at what they are. You'd think this is like obvious, but it's just not at all to people.
This means laying out the stark reality not only of cultural differences, but of the proclivity of the worst of people who are very bad indeed to use religious affiliation as camouflage for their machinations.
I did want to, this was an issue that's kind of throughout. So Jordan Peterson talks about how people with the dark tetrad of personality disorder, so your psychopaths, your narcissists, your Machiavellians, your sadists, they tend to work themselves into positions to give themselves a kind of camouflage so that they can manipulate and abuse other people, right? So one way to do that is by dressing yourself up as a religious person. Look at me. I'm religious and so on, and therefore you can't criticize me. And I have a community to support me when you're using that and so on. He seems to think that's kind of what's going on in Islam. But here's the thing. And I would say he's actually right as long as you realize it goes back to the very beginning of Islam. In other words, this is a guy, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but he's got some serious problems, and him coming up with a religion that justifies and allows him to be this horrible person that he is. And it makes him the good person in that religion, even though anyone looking at him would say, all the stuff you're doing is some of the seriously sick, evil stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it glorifies him and it props him up. And then you build an entire religion around that. So he's right that the worst of people and people with serious personality disorders can use religion for their own personal agendas and so on. He's correct. People do that. But in applying it to Islam, you can still do that. But you got to understand, it's in a completely different context. This goes back to the very beginning and has always been a part of it. It's built into the system. It is an entire religion that is designed for this purpose. Not a couple of people abusing the religion. It's an entire religion that is made for this purpose. That's the issue. So it looks like
precisely. Nobody's abusing and misusing Islam. Islam is pretty much by design fit for that.
Indeed.
This is a temptation regarded by the ancients as paramount, the use of God's name in vain, which the confused assume merely means don't swear, but which truly means do not claim virtue when pursuing the lowest of selfish ends.
This is well thought out and well made. I'm just pointing out here. See this when he's putting these lines up on the screen and it goes blurry and something pops up on the screen. I saw this. Very, very important points up on the screen. Do not claim virtue when pursuing the lowest of selfish ends. That's actually, he's interpreting taking the Lord's name in vain as that. And that actually seems like a good description. If taking the Lord's name, you're bringing up the Lord's name for something. And if it is not completely legitimate, you are in all kinds of trouble. So, but what's the underlying message? Don't be talking about how great and holy. So don't be pretending that you're doing this for some holy, great purpose if you're actually not. Is a good parallel there. So
it is.
This is the sin of the Pharisees as well, who literally became murderous when Christ called them on their hypocrisy. There's arguably no more widespread pathology of aim plaguing us in the developed world today, excepting perhaps that of pride. It's also the case that manipulators, those, for example, who cry victim at the drop of a hat, as well as outright criminals, are highly prone to cloak themselves in the guise of moral virtue. That's exactly what puts the most extreme con in the most exceptional of con men. Before we elaborate on that point, let's...
What are you grinning at?
The thing is, it's all very nicely put and very nicely delivered and articulated and all that, but the way he presents this might be one of the reasons why it doesn't have the amount of views that you would expect of something like this to have, which is that he does the whole, and no disrespect to him, but this is kind of a typical, I don't know what you would call it, but like an illness of of intellectuals, it's called
the curse. It's called the curse of knowledge, AP. It's called I think what you're alluding to is called the curse of knowledge, and that means you understand everything you're talking about and so on, and you don't realize how difficult it is for someone who isn't even familiar with this. So like if you say dark tetrad and so on, people don't know what the heck you're talking about. If you say Machiavellian, people do not know what you're talking about. If you say sadist, people do not know what you're talking about. And you're using all these words and you use them regularly. And so you think you're communicating clearly and other people are not understanding. And the example that's given is called the what is it? They did the experiments with the trying to tap out the song. And so what they would do is they would have one person tap out a song, and then the other person is supposed to say what the song is. And it's simple songs. It's not like it's something everyone's familiar. So it would be like the Happy Birthday song or Row, Row, Row Your Boat or something like that. And the person and then they would ask the person who's doing the tapping out the song, what do you think the odds are that the person's going to know what song you're tapping out? And they say, oh yeah, 90%. And it's actually the reverse. It would be like only 10% of people actually get it. It wouldn't be 90% of people actually getting the song. It would be like 10%. But the reason is when you're tapping out row, row, row your boat, you're actually like thinking of the song in your head. You're thinking row, row, row your boat. Whereas the person who's hearing it is just hearing tap, 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 right? And so the point of all this is because you know something, you know what message you're trying to convey, you're familiar with it, you think the other person's going to instantly get it, and you don't realize that it's much harder for that person because they don't have access to what's going on in your head. And is that what you're pointing out with JP?
Also, aside from that, there's also the language and the way in which he articulates what he is explaining. It's like there is a difference between like the opposite, for example, of Jordan Peterson here would be Tommy Robinson, in the way that he very, very, very
any person
explains things so that everyone gets it. Like from the lowest to the most educated, everyone gets it. Jordan Peterson speaks more on a level where it appeals more to the highly educated crowd and the crowd that likes to use the language that he uses, and where the average population would probably be less likely to get it, and the less educated population would be even less likely to get it. And
yep.
The thing is, even if you don't think that you have to appeal to everyone, even if you think, oh, I don't really care about dumb people anyway, you're putting out a public statement, and a public statement, if you want to make an impact with it, which is the purpose here, should be appealing to all parts of the population. This is always something that I kind of disliked about professors and about people in his boots, that they like to speak on an academic level as if they were always speaking to peers, and it's cool and it's nice, and I'm sure it feels very satisfying, I know, to speak that way. But what's the point of it? It must be if lots of people who are supposed to understand it don't understand it, right? Or even if they do understand it, it's more difficult to listen to, or more difficult to retain everyone's attention. It should be more accessible, such a message. Yeah.
And what's crazy is, like, I know Jordan Peterson is familiar with the experiments and their implications about people trying to communicate and then other people not getting it. So he's familiar with concepts like what's called the curse of knowledge, that if you know about your topic really well and you explain it, you think you're being completely clear. And yet, if you're using all kinds of terms and stuff like that other people, they are not understanding, they're not necessarily understanding what you're saying. You actually point out something good. Is like the difference between Jordan Peterson and Tommy Robinson. There's no one confused about what Tommy Robinson is saying when he's speaking, because he's speaking in like total layman's terms. I have to say, with Jordan Peterson, so I would be on the fairly educated end of the spectrum. So I have degrees in biology and philosophy, 2 master's degrees in philosophy, PhD in philosophy, and I've taken multiple psychology classes. And I very frequently do not understand what the heck he's saying at certain times. I'm like, what does he mean by that? I understand the meaning of every word. I don't understand what he means. So point is, there probably aren't a lot of people who understand everything he's saying, right?
So long story short, I'm right.
Yeah. And so what do you do about that? So he could kind of not talk like this, or what he might want to do is just take like 5 regular people and like sit down and give his talk ahead of time and say, okay, you give me notes on what you did not understand. I try to clarify it. Or, so that's one way. Or he could give this presentation like this for, like I understand this. It's other times when he's talking about meaning of certain things and I don't understand what he's talking about. I understand what he's talking about here. But say, hey, if let me know if you don't understand anything I'm saying. Take notes on that. And then he can have another guy who's like a young version, like a young associate or something like this, who then puts out a video where he says the exact same thing, but in total layman's terms. So how do you communicate this to someone who just a regular ordinary person, everyday ordinary person who works a job and has never studied anything you're talking about right now? Might be good. So anyway, the point is, he's saying,
Why are you complaining? It's easy to understand. Stop complaining.
You're complaining. I'm saying he's spitting hot fire. If you understand what this guy's saying, this guy's spitting hot fire there, but you got people going, what's he saying?
Establish a few more basic and simultaneously indisputable facts. First, democracy is by no means the natural state of man and woman. The vast majority of countries around the world are barely countries at all in the modern Western sense of the world. They are instead far too often unproductive totalitarian hellholes run by thugs and inhabited in the main by the sort of people who either allow themselves to be ruled by the hedonistic and power mad, or who are so beaten down and corrupted themselves that they envision progress merely as the opportunity to rise and perpetuate the same crooked game. This time,
what I love?
What?
We just talked about this whole highbrow way of speaking, and then he immediately descended from that to calling those places barely countries at all hellholes.
Yeah. Yeah. His point there, though, guys, is something we talk about pretty fairly regularly. It's something he's pointed out in the past, that certain concepts in the West have become so successful in spreading in our area that we think it's normal. We think this is normal for human beings. It's one of the things that happened with the atheists. And Peterson talked about this to Richard Dawkins himself, and he said, it's great that these ideas and these values have been so successful that you think they're normal, and therefore if we get people to get rid of religion and so on, they'll be like this. They're not normal. And he's pointing out, it's like, this isn't normal, and this. And Dawkins, yes, that's true. So Dawkins himself knew, yes, we are an exception. Historically, this is pretty darn unique what we have going here. And what he's pointing out now is, in the world today, this is pretty unique. We're all familiar with it because we live in it. Go to different parts of the world, it's not like this. So stop thinking that the way we are is normal, because it's somehow built into you that this is how everything is. And this has two consequences. One, we think, if we just go get rid of this dictator over here, then freedom and democracy will flourish. Why? Because all those people there want freedom and democracy. Bull, you are going to destroy the entire country there and lead to endless anarchy by what you're doing, because you're stupid enough to think that other people think the way you do. So that's one thing. You screw things up in other parts of the world because you think that the people there are like you, and that you just get rid of the obstacle to them living like you, which is, it's got to be the dictator because all the people want freedom and democracy. No, that's not true, you stupid idiot. So that's one problem. The other problem is you think, since everyone around the world has the same values and is the same as me, we can just invite millions of them in and everything's going to be great because they think the same way we do and they have the same values we do. And it's like, what does it take for you to see how insane and stupid you are? Don't know. So anyway, the point is, there are massive consequences for the world and for civilization by thinking that everyone else is the same. And it's like, I don't know, it's weird stuff. But anyway, that's what he's on about here.
Let us, second, abandon the naive and idiot pretense that women are easily integrated as full and equal partners into functional and productive marriages, families, and states, and that such integration is also a default condition. Here's an alternative view, which, as in the case of religious and moral hypocrisy, is much more natural. In the absence of constant and disciplined future and community-oriented socialization, sexual desire runs rampant, not least among young single men, along with all the other forms of present-focused, hedonistic, and power-mad behavior. Hence the well-established association between the proclivity to rape and otherwise assault and more general criminal conduct. Self-centered immaturity is the rule, not civilized, self-disciplined conduct.
You catch that, guys?
Yes.
Basically saying that because you think about women in a certain way in your culture and context, you're projecting that onto the rest of the world and thinking this is normal. And he's saying, actually, you have no idea how bad it can be in societies for women where people have not been basically conditioned by their culture to respect women in various ways. And he's saying you get something that is completely different in other parts of the world where they develop differently. And of course, what's the takeaway? Well, you take guys who have developed in a completely different culture and have a completely different way of looking at women, and then you import a bunch of these guys into your country. How are they viewing the women among you? Like you want them to?
Same can be said of foolishness as opposed to wisdom. Under the dominion of the immature, unprotected women are not only fair game, particularly when foreign, but responsible by the very fact of their unguarded status and self-evidently wicked attractiveness for whatever dire fate might befall them. This means not only the rape and sadistic abuse of said women, but their blaming and shaming for the provocative fact of their solitariness.
That was all fancy way of saying people in other cultures view, not all other cultures to be clear, but people of many other cultures who grow up in other cultures have no problem viewing foreign women, which there are foreign women to them, even if they are brought into your country and so on. They still view you as foreign. You are not part of their group, in other words. You are not part of their group. These women are outside of our group. And he connected that to believing that good women are what my culture defines as good women. And if you are not like that, then you are bad women. And therefore, you're bringing this on yourself if we treat you in this way. And this is what I'm talking about as far as him thinking. He's not saying this here, but if it's him thinking that, if he's thinking that Islam has somehow been hijacked by people who are using it for their own agendas and so on, no, this is another example of something that goes back directly to Islam. It's in the Quran. It's in Surah 33. Why do you veil yourself? So that you not be molested. What if I don't veil myself then? It means you basically are asking to be molested. And if you are part of a different group, because he's saying, hey, outsiders to your group. Okay, what does the Quran say about outsiders? They're the worst of creatures. They're disgusting. Allah has no love for them.
Yes.
They're garbage. They're worse than insects. Would you hesitate? Would you hesitate to kill an insect that's about to bite you or something? No. Why would you have a problem doing whatever you want to something that is way worse, namely a non-Muslim person? And so he's on the track here. He's on the track of, guys, Islam teaches some very dangerous things, and we think that it doesn't. People think that it doesn't.
This is the default
This is
defense.
very. This is. I can say it. This is going to sound a little bit offensive. No, I normally try not to be offensive. I am normally very respectful of different cultures and different people. However, you will observe that it happened, and it was reported to be like this on many occasions among the rape gangs or so-called grooming gangs. That it is this way in Muslim culture. In Muslim cultures, it is very, very common to for men to basically view those women belonging to the own culture or their own family, their own extended family, their own neighborhood, and so on, as their women. Women belonging to them, they're one of us. We don't do any of the dirty things to one of ours. And they have this. They have this rule that they kind of that they impose on themselves to not touch those women. Sometimes they slip up and start and end up raping one of their own, but they generally are not supposed to do that because that goes against the code, against their code of saying our women are ours. They are clean. They are not to be corrupted and all that. However, when you go into a non-Muslim culture, for example, or even inside a country, inside the same culture, to a different neighbor's community, things change. The outsider starts becoming fair game when Muslim groups go to a non-Muslim country, especially, this would be then the most extreme form of that. They start viewing the non-Muslim women, the Christian women, the non-Muslim women in general as fair game, as women that you can play with, that you can use, that you can abuse, which is why it is very, very often seen among immigrant communities or descendants or children of immigrants that they will do this thing. For example, among the youth, among the Muslim youth in Europe, what they do is they date and date and date and have sex with non-Muslim women in the cultures that they are. In Germany, for example, I mean, I've seen this a lot. And what they end up doing then is they go back and then eventually marry one of the women of their own culture. So they and they view this as using those other women for fun, for sex, and all that, and then throwing them away, basically, and then eventually settling down and marrying one of their own. But they only keep this privilege, of course, to themselves. If the women do something like that, the women deserve to be brutally punished. The women cannot fool around. The women have to be pure. Women have to be absolutely pure, but they can go and use and abuse the non-Muslim women. And when really messed up and sick people start forming things like grooming gangs and rape gangs, you can see this manifest itself in the most brutal and disgusting ways, where they start grooming and abusing and raping those that they see as merely, tools or toys or pleasure. This is basically how it is in these cultures. I now get it that Jordan Peterson has this very highbrow approach that he uses right now here in this video, because this is something that foremost the leaders in Western societies should understand and should get. They are supposed to turn this around. They're supposed to understand this. They're supposed to understand that the whole expectations of just integrating different cultures into your country and expecting them to be just like your own culture, it doesn't really work out. When you invite a culture where things are much more tribalistic and much more primitive, things can get out of hand very quickly. And those who suffer as a result of this are especially the women in your own society. And you don't want them to suffer unless you are really, really messed up in the head.
And it is extremely messed up, right? Like, you're performing this. It's almost like the leaders are just like gambling based on their own fantasies, right? It's like, here's what I think people are going to. Everything I can actually examine in reality tells me this is not going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway, and it's going to lead to horrible suffering of tons and tons of people. And I'm willing to do it. Why? Because I look like a good guy. It makes me feel like a good guy. I'm a good guy if I just say, only bigots would oppose this. Bunch of idiots. Hey, I wanted to, as you were talking there, I went to click to insert the link to the full video for people who want to check it out. And I went over to Peterson's page to grab the video. This is this shadow banning? I'm looking at his recent videos. Why the best teachers leave, 34,000 views. That's from 2 days ago. If I posted a video 2 days ago and it got 34,000 views, I would be like, "What? Why is this video not doing well?" And I have a fraction of his subscribers. Before that, 51,000 views. How competition will save public schools. Now, not the most terribly interesting topics to certain people. Before that, 4 days ago, some dreams are really nightmares. 46,000 views and so on. And then you get to one with a couple 100,000 views and stuff. But I'm looking at some of these, 71,000. Again, these would be great numbers for a normal YouTube channel. But for a channel with 8.64 million subscribers, I'm wondering what's going on. Are some people losing interest because they're focusing on other things, or is like YouTube not sharing his stuff the same, or have people started focusing on other things? I don't know. You have any idea, or is it just a mystery to YouTube?
It's a mystery to me. It's even on his front page, on his channel page. But I don't know.
I don't know either.
Let me-
One of life's
I'll
great
figure it-
mysteries. One of life's great mysteries, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so,
figure it out.
but he's about to have a thing on the screen again, and whenever you see a thing pop up on the screen, it's important. Check this out.
I actually
and
have
shaming.
a program to analyze things. It shows
Uh-huh.
that it gets 0.8 times the amount of views that he normally gets for his videos. So 0.8 times based on the average of views. So slightly below average, not too much. That's it.
All right.
For the provocative fact of their solitariness. This is the default defense and worldview of the worst of men. She was asking for it.
She was asking for it.
A society where women can bring their talents to the table as independent, safe, and respected individuals requires, by contrast, certain stringent psychological and social preconditions. A widely shared view of the value of women as equal intrinsically to men.
Guys, it's, again, I want to let him keep talking, but I'm concerned when he says something important that people didn't understand it. What he was just saying is, it's good it's good for women being able to contribute and share their ideas in a society. That's good. But that requires something else in society. There has to be a foundation for this kind of stuff. There have to be other ideas at work in society to even have that sort of thing, to even have a society where women can contribute their thoughts on these issues requires other things, other beliefs about women and so on. And if you don't have those, well, you're not going to get that. And I guess the takeaway is going to be, if you bring in tons of people who don't share those underlying views that are required for women to flourish in this way, guess what's going to happen? Doesn't take a genius.
A police and justice system with genuine integrity, material, and more specifically, hygienic standards associated only with industrialized societies. It also requires effective birth control and the mores that allow or even encourage its use. These conditions are prohibitively difficult to meet. Furthermore, their existence is taken for granted at our extreme peril, with particularly severe ramifications for the poorly defended and female.
Did you catch that? He says, we've got these ideas and we take them for granted and we think they're normal. And the fact that we think that is going to be a problem, because when we turn out to be wrong in thinking that other people share these same views, who are going to be the people who suffer because of this? It's already been happening. It's already been happening. The repeated rape and gang rape of 12-year-old girls is because you thought that these guys think the same way you do about women and girls. You thought these guys think the same way you do about women and girls outside their group, that you think about women and girls outside your group. And they don't. And no matter how many times they shout from the rooftops that they do not agree with your values, you still think that they agree with your values. And who's suffering? He just said it. It's the women and the girls who suffer because of your stupidity and insanity.
I figured out some factors here, which are, so according to the analysis, the title of the video it makes it get throttled a little bit, or by default, because despite him having it censored, the rape word still counts as a problematic word, which gets throttled down. And then the title of the video is a little bit too not sensational enough, because it's in the shadow of multicultural.
Shocking facts about multiculturalism, something like that.
And the thumbnail doesn't stick out and is too enigmatic.
Wait, you had something that told you all that?
Yeah.
You should share that with me at some point, because I just look at stuff and be like, oh, that's stupid.
I will.
Okay.
None of these preconditions apply in the default oppressive authoritarian society, where intercourse of any sort between men and women is severely restricted and punished, and all forms of sexual psychopathology flourish in no small consequence. It is nonetheless from precisely such societies that much of the mass immigration that characterizes many Western countries occurs, and has for decades, in consequence of the idiot presumption that these mobile and often desperate people will bring with them none of the terrible presumptions and customs they are hypothetically fleeing.
Did you catch that, guys? He's saying you have people who grow up in these authoritarian, totalitarian hellholes, as Jordan Peterson describes them. And so we think if people want to get out of those places, that must mean they're like us, and they're not going to bring those ideas with them, even though they've been programmed their entire lives to think in a certain way. And we think they're going to come over here and they actually think like us. Are you insane? He calls it an idiot. He calls it an idiot assumption.
They're not like us. They're not like us. People need to understand that.
Yeah, they're human like you. As far as their views and their values and their ideas, people can be very, 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 very different from you, and frequently are. And you've been programmed to think that they're not. And this is destroying your entire civilization, this stupidity and insanity.
Consider, in that regard, the 195 countries that currently make up the world. A mere 24 of these are true Western democracies,
24.
characterized by respect for and existence of freedom, human rights, limited government, separation of church and state, and rule of law. That's 1 in 8, or 12%.
1 in 8. 1 in 8 countries are like have some resemblance to your country. I mean, like a lot of resemblance to your country. So 1 in 8 countries in the world is actually what you think is normal. 7 out of 8 are not. But he's gonna break it down a little more.
That alone proves that such rule-governed, classically liberal democracy is the exception, strongly indicating at the same time that the absence of democratic attitude and social order, rather than its presence, must be assumed as the default.
You catch that? If you're 1 in 8, by the way, he's just talking about now in the world. He's not talking about down through history. If you went down through history, you are an extreme minority. Your countries are an extreme minority. But even in the world today, 7 out of 8 are significantly different from you. What's that mean? It means that the default is something different from you. How are you still concluding? How is it still built into you to think that everyone thinks like you do? It's insane.
The naive and reflexively self-aggrandizing Westerner, striving above all to consider him or herself in the best possible light, proclaims instead that deep in the chest of every oppressed person beats a heart longing for responsible freedom. But a totalitarian state is, in truth, a distributed network of deceit and cruel oppression, more than a mere top-down hierarchy of power. Everyone in a tyranny lies about everything all the time, to everyone, including themselves and those whom they claim to love. This is why removing the putative head, the most obvious dictator, in the revolutionary manner, remember the Arab Spring, or the liberalism of Libya and Iraq, most frequently produces chaos or even worse, oppression.
Catch that? I've said that many, many times, because we have these stupid ideas that in other areas, people are the same as us. They just want freedom and democracy. And you say, okay, what's going on in these other countries? It must be because they have an evil and corrupt tyrant controlling them and oppressing them. So what worked for us in not quite in the U.S. because it's before the U.S., but what worked for us that ultimately led to the U.S.? Well, we said, just get rid of the tyrant. Just get rid of the tyrant, and then all the people want freedom and democracy. They can flourish and make the kind of country they want. And we assume, oh, the same thing will work in Iraq. The same thing will work in Libya. The same thing will work in Syria. So what do we start doing? Oh, let's just get rid of Saddam Hussein. Let's just get rid of Gaddafi. Let's just get rid of Assad. Then what will happen? Freedom and democracy. And what did you get when you said, hey, let's get rid of Saddam Hussein? Well, we tried to install a government for a while, but what did you eventually get? ISIS. That's what you got. You got people blowing up each other's mosques for a while, and then you get ISIS. What happened? What's that? What'd you say?
Maybe it will work. Maybe it will work next time.
That's what they're still doing. Oh, maybe it'll work next time. Maybe it'll work here. Maybe it'll work there. Let's just get rid of this leader. Let's just get rid of that leader. The population does not think like you. What's actually going on in those populations is you do have some people who just want freedom and democracy. You do. Those are not the strongest parts of the population there. They are surrounded by jihadis who were being kept at bay by people like Saddam. And then you get rid of Saddam, and now what's stopping these jihadis from taking over? Bunch of people who love freedom and democracy? Guess who fights more viciously? The people who've been programmed that God wants them to take over the world and subjugate everyone and take all their stuff and take their women and girls.
But the people,
and we keep doing it. That's what he's pointing out right there. Hey, chop off the head of the corrupt, and then what people really want will flourish. And what are you, European or American? What are you thinking that these other people want? What are you thinking that they want? You're thinking that they want exactly what you want. You're projecting your own personal preferences onto people who do not share your personal preferences, and it's screwing up the entire world. Just get rid of that one stupid, insane idea that other people think the way you do and they share the same value. Get rid of that stupid idea, and like half the world's problems would go away.
There are many pathways, personal and communal, to rigidity and instability, and very few to responsible freedom, abundance, and progress. Thus, immigrants from authoritarian states are most likely to bring with them authoritarian.
Catch that? I'll rewind it. I've said it. He does not put random stuff on the screen. Immigrants from authoritarian states are most likely to bring with them authoritarian attitudes. Why is that important? Because you think, oh smart Westerner, that the people who are fleeing an authoritarian area are doing so because they want freedom and democracy. And not realizing, no, they just don't like this guy, but they still have a lot of the same ideas and values.
I don't even understand, because this is not even a very smart analysis. I mean, it's not even it's not even something that requires really advanced.
It's commonsensical, right?
Reasoning. It's like, it's so basic to understand this, and it's so tiring and so exhausting that people just that people don't get it.
Thus, immigrants from authoritarian states are most likely to bring with them authoritarian attitudes.
Yeah, think about the level, the depth of thinking that needs to be required for. Hey guys, did you know that people from authoritarian states are probably going to have some authoritarian ideas? Did you know that? What? Oh my goodness! We thought that would be the exact opposite. Oh my goodness! Oh boy.
24 genuine free democracies. What of the remaining 171, or 88% of the world's countries?
Paradises.
59 of them are fully authoritarian,
59.
replete with all the horrors such systems entail.
So he's saying he's breaking them down into categories. He's pointing out you're actually outnumbered by pure authoritarian countries in the world. What you are in the West is not normal. You are completely outnumbered. There are different kinds of countries with different levels of problems and so on. But you are outnumbered in the world by completely, just totally authoritarian states.
20 are chaotic, failed states. The remainder are at best a mixed bag, not fully authoritarian, not entirely chaotic, but certainly not thriving democracies. And certainly not the Western countries that the oppressed or predatory of the world flee to, given a choice.
Well, little point there. one little tag on. So you've got the fully authoritarian states, then you've got the chaotic hellholes, and then you've got the places that are a mixed bag. None of those other places are the places that people flee to. Where do people flee to? They flee to the 24. They run to the 24. People in all these other places want to get to the 24. And he's pointing out all these other places has some very, very different ideas from you. And they're bringing those ideas with you. And the more people you bring in who have these bad ideas, the more you're eventually going to resemble the places that they fled from.
The thing is, it's very complicated. You know, there is a complicated aspect here, which is also which I think needs to be taken into consideration, which is that yes, the people that come from very chaotic places and authoritarian places are very likely to bring with them authoritarian sentiments and all that. But when you have just the fact that people from authoritarian places tend to desire to, flee to free countries like to Europe, actually makes people think, oh, these people just want freedom. But and it's actually true that some of these people who themselves have very authoritarian, aspects and elements and a very authoritarian way of thinking, they actually do want freedom, and they also kind of fool themselves as well. They do think, oh, I just want to go to a free country. I just want to go to a place like Germany where I can be free, where I am no longer oppressed. Life will be better there. But these people are also basically caught within the totalitarian, authoritarian world that not only exists in the country they flee, but also in their own minds and in their own culture. They go to Germany, they go to the UK, they go to France. They end up very often simply surrounding themselves again with lots of people who also fled from those countries. And in no time, they start recreating the totalitarian and authoritarian attitudes with the communities that they brought with them in the new countries that they fled to. And so in Europe, when you sit in Europe, you might say, oh, look, those people are coming here. Obviously, they want freedom. And those people actually do want freedom, but they don't really understand freedom. They come here, they're not really integrated, they don't really know what to do, and soon they willingly or unwillingly start imposing their authoritarian mindset within those countries that they flee to, which is a shame, but it's not something that we should be, or it's not something that you, who are in a free country, should be concerned with. You should take this into consideration, which is why you shouldn't accept masses of people who flee from those countries. It might sound cruel, but you just don't have the responsibility. You can't always open your door to all strangers and all danger. You are going to mess up the beautiful place that you have. It's not your responsibility.
And as you just pointed out, we're thinking, oh, these people are fleeing these places saying, yes, I just want to come over here and live free and so on. And you do have people who understand they just want an opportunity for a better life and so on. Sometimes you don't understand what people are searching for in their in the better life they're looking at. So for an example, I forget where I read an article years ago about how Islam allows men to marry multiple women, but this is actually fairly difficult in many Muslim countries because you have to be wealthy enough to have houses for all these wives and so on, and the vast majority of people can't do it. Right? It's wealthy or or some other way of privileged people who can actually do that. Most people can't. But it became understood in the Muslim world, if you can just get to Europe, if you can get to a European nation or to Canada or the United States, you can marry 2, 3, 4 women. You get all your marriages in the mosque. Your marriages are not recognized or known by the state. So when you marry these women in your mosque, and then these women start having children, as far as the state is concerned, these are single mothers. They all receive state benefits. And so it's been understood, hey, in my country, I'm not wealthy enough to have 4 wives. If I can get to the United Kingdom, I can have 4 wives and the government will pay for them. The government will pay for my entire family. All my wives will be housed and paid for by the government. And so I can have my awesome, better life if I can just get to Europe. So we sit there and thinking, oh, look, this guy wants to come to Europe. He wants freedom and democracy. No, he wants polygamy. And in his country will not pay for it. Your country will pay for it. Where does he want to go? Your country. Because you're too stupid. You're too insanely stupid to look into this. Anyway, the point there is you're importing. You don't know what you're importing, guys. You don't know. It's obvious and you can't see it because you're stupid.
That's pretty racist.
You're a racist.
What are the cultural preconditions for civil society and good governance? What cultural features characterize the 24 versus the rest, particularly the worst of the rest? 40 of 50, or 80%, of Muslim majority countries are fully and unabashedly authoritarian. A mere 3 of the remainder are democracies: Morocco, Turkey, and Indonesia, if the definition is allowed to be approximate and generous. The rest are, at best, a mixed bag. And what of majority Protestant or Catholic countries? 100% of these, Africa accepted, and reasonably so, are highly functional free societies. Observation of a track record like that might suggest to a genuinely objective observer a causal connection.
But no, it's because they take advantage of the Muslim countries.
Yeah, did you guys catch that? So there are dozens of Muslim countries in the world. Vast majority of them are completely authoritarian states. You have 3 that you could classify as democracies, as long as you're being very generous in your descriptions and so on. And then he says, okay, what about Catholic and Protestant countries? He said, with the exception of certain Catholic and Protestant majority countries in Africa, where they still have issues with local warlords and so on, and government corruption and so on. 100% of them. So with the exception of some places in Africa, elsewhere, 100% are some level of flourishing democracy.
Beast.
Interesting.
Why the stark difference? None of even the possible reasons look good for those who proclaim that the rewards of multiculturalism are untrammeled and certain. First, in the Islamic world, divine law, Sharia, rules. And it is indisputably the case that the more fundamentalist accounts of Sharia, and potentially all accounts, don't mesh easily with the democratic idea of man-made laws subject to change and improvement by consensual and voluntary agreement. For Islamist supremacists, God's law, by their interpretation, of course, is regarded as immutable and superordinate to any human legislation.
Let's look at that real quick,
Sounds
because
pretty racist.
he did give a qualification
And
a
it
moment
is
ago.
indisputably the case that the more fundamentalist accounts of Sharia,
Come on, put it on the screen.
and potentially all accounts,
Did you catch that? So he said, the more fundamentalist accounts of Sharia. It's clear for those. But he said potentially all of them, meaning even for the watered down versions that you'll see, oh, we just want this and we just want that. That's all we mean by Sharia. He's pointing out even those may be completely incompatible with what you're familiar with. So even the Sharia light versions of Sharia may be actually completely incompatible.
don't mesh easily with the democratic idea of man-made laws subject to change and improvement by consensual and voluntary agreement. For Islamist supremacists, God's law, by their interpretation, of course, is regarded as immutable and superordinate to any human legislation. Does this presumption not stand in virtually absolute opposition to a foundational democratic idea, the sovereignty of the people?
Yeah.
Some might argue that Shura, the Islamic principle
like
of
a
consultation, is akin to democracy. However, akin to is by no means identical with, and such.
Yeah, so you have the Shura councils. These are like the sort of councils of experts and scholars and so on. They'll get, so I guess some people claim, well, yeah, it's democracy because they'll have people getting together and making decisions and so on. No, these are elites selected for a purpose. So this is not just saying, hey, everyone gets a say.
Differences matter in the case of fundamental principles, and they matter a lot. Shura is traditionally a consultation among a select group of Islamic scholars or leaders, and not an electoral process involving universal suffrage. It is therefore not a voluntarily accepted social contract subject to equally voluntary update and change, but a variant form of top-down, elite-imposed governance or tyranny.
Interesting. So he's saying for people who would say, what are you talking about? We have Shura councils. We actually have councils of people who make decisions and so on. And therefore, and he's saying, no, it's just another form of tyranny. It's another form of top-down tyranny.
The historical method of leadership selection in the Islamic world, think of the caliphs, clearly and indisputably reflects this elitism. The same can be said regarding the imams. If
Amen.
such bending of the knee among such people and in such states was truly to the one God, ruling validly forever from on high, something might be still said for it, at least among those who claim religious inspiration. A thorny problem remains, however. The Word of God, according to who?
That was wasn't that in that one clip where he had according to who? Your misogynistic mullahs? How about no?
I don't buy your Allah.
I don't buy your Allah. And he was talking about but there he's not talking about God in general or Allah in general. He's talking specifically to, I have to go with your interpretation. How about no? I don't buy your Allah. Or Allah, whatever he said.
Allah.
Let's take a couple super chats real quick, and then we'll jump back into this. Let's see. Paulo says, D. Wood, with all the suffering you went through, how do you still stay strong in faith? I've had so much taken away, and I'm heading into depression and nihilism. I may not be the best person to talk about this because a lot of things that make other people suffer wouldn't make me suffer. So in other words, something that happens to you might not cause the same problem for someone else. But as far as like staying strong in faith, it's never crossed my mind that God's going to protect me from going through all kinds of things. Never once crossed my mind. Never. And in fact, the only thing that crossed my mind is I deserve way worse. Anything that happens to me in life, I deserve way worse than this. So it's never, oh my goodness, how am I not getting a hedonistic paradise? It's wow, how am I so blessed in spite of how messed up I've been. So that's one thing. And I'll say, Paolo, in addition to that, hedonism now is far more prevalent than it was in the past, meaning that nowadays it's much more common for people to think that, pleasure and good times and things going well and not going through suffering and so on, that's kind of what's most important. If that's what's most important, then that should be most important to God. In other words, God's main goal, according to this line of thinking, God's main goal should be keeping us away from suffering and making sure we don't go through things. And it's like, where'd you get that idea in Christianity? In Christianity, the best person ever suffered massively. I mean, massively. Was horribly tortured and killed. But even after him, take the Apostle Paul. Remember, the Apostle Paul goes down that list of everything he'd been through. That he received the 39 lashes 5 different times. That he was beaten with rods 3 times. That he was shipwrecked multiple times. That he's constantly been hungry and in danger and so on. Think that's the Apostle Paul. It never crosses. Guess what? Sometimes God does protect him from things. God does protect Paul from things, and other times he'll just let him get stoned. I don't mean for you young people. I don't mean smoking the weed. I mean actually having stones hurled at him as a death sentence, and he survived, and so on. So anyway. But here's the thing. It never crosses Paul's mind to sit back and say, hey, wait a minute. If God's really on my side and supporting me here, how come I'm going through all this messed up stuff? Wasn't his attitude. He understood. Of course I'm going to go through some stuff. Of course I'm going to go through some stuff. That's going to happen. And so this idea that God keeps us away from suffering and so on, and therefore if we're suffering, then there's something horribly wrong going on. It's a more modern development. Now, there's part of that that's built into our human nature. We want to avoid suffering and we like pleasure and so on. But it's just, if you sit back and think about it, those aren't the most important. There are other things that are more important. And God's goals aren't necessarily the same as all of our human goals. And so I guess the main idea is, according to Christianity, God doesn't protect you. I mean, he can, but definitely doesn't always, doesn't protect you from suffering. He's with you through the suffering. And so keep that in mind. That'd be my takeaway.
That's pretty based.
Here we have Christus is König. Looks like we've got a German Groiper here. My Muslim wife said I was oppressing her. I immediately invoked Surah 434 and will complain to her kindergarten. 9-year-olds shouldn't talk like that. She's 9 and still in kindergarten? Let's see. Dr. P needs to learn how to communicate in layman's terms. I'm not sure. I mean, I know he could probably if he tried, but it's actually difficult because you don't realize if you're talking to lots of academics, and even when he's like teaching courses and so on over the years, he's still talking to like psychology students and so on. So they all have a certain level of familiarity with the psychological terms he's bringing up and so on. So might be too late for him to communicate purely in layman's terms. So what would be helpful is someone learning Jordan Peterson's points and sharing them in layman's terms. I love JP, but sometimes the way he talks almost borders on showing contempt for the layman. That is how it can come across, even if
that might be the impression that people will get. That's kind of what I was thinking. But I mean, he could just learn from Muhammad Hijab. He could just start shouting, "You're finished, boy! You're finished!"
Yeah, and he does blurt stuff about. He does make points like that. How about no? All right, we all understand it. We all get that. I don't buy your Allah. Okay, we get what you mean. Gad Sads talks of professors' incomprehensible BS. Does he talk about like what I was talking about, like the curse of knowledge or something like that, or something different?
Yeah, he has that whole perspective as well that you don't need to talk like that all the time. So.
David, do you think that the problem with JP, he's trying to be a philosopher by being a pen pal with Muslims? You can't do that with Islam. I don't buy your Allah. As far as him trying to be a philosopher, no. I just think he's really, really well educated, and that his experience over the years has been academic. He's talking to other academics. He's writing academic works. And even when he's communicating with people who aren't full academics, they're still, again, like psychology students and so on. They have a certain level of academic understanding and so on. And by the way, I guarantee you that his classrooms were also filled with people who don't always understand what he's saying. But again, that's called the curse of knowledge. It has a term, the curse of knowledge, that because you know something, you think you're communicating clearly because you understand everything you're saying. You think you're communicating clearly, and it doesn't always work. Yeah, I don't think it's him trying to be something special or something. I just think he's spent decades in just the academic world, and so that's how he's used to communicating. Let's see. A name if you transition, AP. Gay P 3 streams ago. What do you mean 3 streams ago? We used Gay P back when we did Muhammad meets Queers for Palestine.
We came up with that idea. It was powerful.
Yeah, Vincent says, I'm behind in live stream, so I'm responding late. Yeah. You're like a year late. Almost a year late. We need a better long-term timeline of Islam beyond the 450 years of peaceful expansion crusades, totally peaceful till the CIA installs the Shah in 9/11.
That'd be fun.
The bride of Christ, she is the bride, and she will be found without spot or wrinkle. Satan has tried to destroy the bride of Christ. It is a mystery that I don't fully understand. You're allowed to have mysteries. My powers are Tovia Winger. My powers are growing. What? The same Kurds being oppressed in Iraq and Turkey go to Japan and start causing trouble there. Is that true?
People say things about Kurds. I can't really comment on that.
Well, you're Turkish. You're not allowed to talk about Kurds. Have you seen Hamza's Den's video asking for money to pay off his personal business debt, corrupt behavior? I don't know. If he's got fans, if he says, "Hey guys, send me some money," and they send him some money, and he says what it's for, I don't know.
And maybe he needs a second wife or third wife or whatever, you know.
Yeah, what if he needs a third wife and the government isn't paying for some reason? No, we know that's not the case. We know the government will pay for any of this extra wives. Will AP join my podcast? I've emailed you, bro.
No.
Okay, you have your answer.
I don't know. I have to check it out. I have to check it out first.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out. Yeah, what if he doesn't like you? Please, Diddy Grandpa hat AP. David, why are Christians cringy? Christians are not cringy. They're based. You don't even know what you're talking about. Then we have a follow-up. Jordan Peterson is just a yapper. No, he's not. He's everything he has said so far in this. I mean, he's just crushing it. These are good points. It's just he could have put them differently. And I'm understanding. Again, I pointed out that I don't always understand what Jordan Peterson is saying. I'm understanding everything he's saying, and he is spitting hot fire. If he had altered the rhetoric a little bit to make it easier to understand, because that's the thing. You can say something that people can get, but sometimes it's like you have to pause for a couple seconds and go, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. But by that time he's saying something else and so on. So let's see. I think he needs veggies. The carnivore diet is getting to his brain, or maybe he needs Diddy Grandpa hat. Do you think veggies are going to help him? Come on.
Of course, man.
The reason he's so based is because of that carnivore diet. AP, correct me if I'm wrong. In your old video about leaving Islam, you found the Bible. You had a dream about Jesus and God, but you didn't choose Christianity then. Why not? My memory may be faulty. Thanks. What's this?
I had a dream. You had a dream about Jesus, God, but you didn't choose Christianity. No, I don't think that is what I said anywhere. I'm not sure if that's...
You must have said it. Papa's just said it, but he says his memory may be faulty.
Yeah, it might be faulty. It was probably faulty. I didn't have a dream or anything about that, as far as I remember. I only read and looked into it a little bit on a kind of a surface level, I would say, not too deeply. I don't know, man. I was going into a very rebellious direction after I left Islam, and it wasn't a very good time. Despite that, even at those times, I had sympathy. There was this funny thing that around the time that I left Islam, or after I left Islam, and I was kind of in a vacuum of identifying as an ex-Muslim and potentially as an atheist. I was working at this job, and one day I found these two pieces of whatever that was that you could screw into each other, and I just turned them into a cross and had that cross at my desk at work. And I always sympathized with just a cross and with Christianity. So and since childhood, I always had some sympathy for Christianity and Christian symbols and all that. But after Islam, I was just going hardcore into the whole atheist direction and didn't want to have anything to do with God. So,
yeah. So some people said you're thinking about Nabil. You could be thinking about all kinds of. You could be as far as AP's dream. Some people said, didn't you have a dream about the Pope? Where you became Pope or something like that. So,
I had that dream quite recently because of melatonin.
Yeah, no, because of megalomania. Some people call it melatonin. Some people call it megalomania. So yeah, some people said the dream was about the Pope. Jeffrey Anderson said you're thinking about Nabil as far as having dreams. You could be thinking of all kinds of stories you may have heard about Muslims having dreams and so on. And then Apostate of Allah said Martin Luther King Jr. also had a dream.
Oh, that's true.
That's true.
That's true. It's a coincidence.
Let's see. Oh, I actually want to jump back in the video, but the important comment coming up here in a second. It's lay person, bigot. Yeah, not layman. Lay person. Guys, check The Ethics of Beauty by Timothy Patitsas, Eastern Orthodox. Talks about trauma and soul healing through Christ. AP, St. Gabriel Ergabadze. Set on fire Lenin portrait during Soviet regime in Georgia. Beast. God bless you. I will screenshot this as far as The Ethics of Beauty. What is that, a book or an article or a video?
It's a book.
It's a book. Well, book. It's a book. It's a book. Ahmed Deedat, who, for some
book
reason,
because-
whenever he says book, raise it up. He goes, so as we are looking at this book, it's like, what are you doing, dude? You turn into a chicken every time you say book.
What is this, man?
What?
50% discount. The book is currently $97. What is this?
How long is it?
Oh,
How many pages?
748 pages.
Oh, yeah. That's not happening. That's not happening. Last spicy chicken wing from the bucket. I will read a 700-page book if it's really, really, really important. So I would have to hear this from a lot of people like, David, this is the greatest book ever written. You did not come up with gay pee. I did months before you used it. Get it right. Well, I don't recall. It's possible, though. It would be funny if Jordan Peterson hired Tommy Robinson as his common man interpreter. Oh, yeah, we had two back-to-back about Tommy Robinson. That's what I wanted to get to. It would be funny if Jordan Peterson hired Tommy Robinson as his common man interpreter. It would actually be funny to do a video like that. Like you used to have the Key and Peele clips where you had Obama's something like his rage interpreter, his anger interpreter. In other words, you had
That was funny.
you had Peele. He would say it like Obama. And so as we go, and then you had Luther, his anger translator, who's saying everything, but he's enraged. It'd be funny like that. I mean, seriously, like legitimately funny, not necessarily with Tommy Robinson, although that would absolutely be legendary and hilarious crossover. But have Jordan Peterson give like a 10-minute talk, and every like 20 seconds he pauses to have what he's saying translated. But it would be funny. It would be absolutely hilarious with Tommy or someone with that accent, basically saying everything and translating it. That would be hilarious. In fact, if I ever have the ability to talk to Jordan Peterson, I will tell him how hilarious that would be, because it would be. And then we have the next one. That's why Tommy Robinson is hated. He speaks like the common man, but articulates all the problems of Islam in the West. You catch that?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to get to, because that is an important point. So if you are the elites of, let's say, Great Britain, you're worried about Jordan Peterson, which is why people try to shut down Jordan Peterson, which is why the Canadian elites try to shut down Jordan Peterson. He's saying some very dangerous stuff, but for some reason, lots of people understand, okay, but he's talking to elites right here, right? He's not riling up the regular people, because the irregular people can barely understand what he's saying. Tommy, he's riling up the regular people because they understand exactly what he's saying. And so who's a bigger threat? Some would say Tommy, which is why they throw Tommy in prison. Oh no, but he did this. What he did is not something anyone would ever be thrown in prison for, which means they're using that as an excuse because they want to lock him up for other reasons, guys. Stop falling for the propaganda.
Hey, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but there's a Twitter account that has been exploding. Oh, it was only created like 2 months ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Retard Finder.
I have seen that pop up. I've seen it. It's got some funny. I've seen some funny stuff. I don't even remember what, but I remember this is funny and it's a funny name.
It just often just tweets like found one, and then just picture of somebody or a post, and it's like thousands of likes. So the account was created in December. It now has 600,000 followers on Twitter.
That's really funny. So
but the
everyone,
thing
you know how to blow up on Twitter now, everyone.
The funny thing is, yesterday the account actually responded to Daniel Kikic.
Really?
Daniel Kikic made a post about Muslim countries have the lowest levels of rape in the world and so on. And Retard Finder responded, pretty sure that's because the victims get stoned or put in jail if they report it. And the thing is, Daniel's tweet has 8,000 likes and Retard Finder's response has 36,000 likes.
Oh, that's awesome. We need to help that. We need to help that happen as much as possible. So, yeah.
Man.
Let's see. We have Demo here. Here for my daily dose of wood. Where's Wes Huff at? Hey, yo, Wes Huff, where are you at?
Hey, yo, Wes.
Hey, yo, Wes Huff, where you at? Where you at? Oh, sorry, my short-lived debate career is already over. What are the odds that Wes Huff is ever going to talk to Central Dawa? 0. close to zero. He knows and walks through it with me, had some incredible challenges, not least of which was a 6.5-inch nerve sheath tumor removed from my spinal cord. That's got to be a nightmare. Run the nerves. Tumor removed from my spinal cord, but had total confidence that whatever happened, God was with me through it. Now, therefore, by the way, notice the different perspectives. I need a tumor removed from my spinal cord. Notice the difference between, if God is with me, then this will not happen. Or God will miraculously remove the tumor. Or the doctors will be completely successful and I will be completely restored. If God exists, then this will happen. Notice the difference between that and I have total confidence God's going to be with me no matter what happens. Different ideas. But it has transitioned. Things have the thinking of people has transitioned in recent centuries to, if God's with me, bad things aren't going to happen. And you just, where are you getting this from? You're not getting this from the history of Christians.
This is a very transcendent stream.
Hey, VFR Adam says, I think the R Finder account on X was suspended. Was it? You seemed like you were just looking at it.
No, it's not.
He says it's not, or it may have, I guess it may have been at one point, but you're saying it's not now.
It's booming.
And great wisdom by Daily Wood in the morning. Hi, AP. Thank you, Shane. All right, back to Jordan here.
Islamic totalitarianism, which is far too often rule by immature and hedonistic thug, is likewise far too often submission to the thug's interpretation of God.
Again, with just one quick qualification. You are correct that what you have very frequently in Islam is a thug's interpretation of the will of God. Just understand that goes back to the very beginning of Islam, and then you get it. Muhammad was a thug, and he gave his interpretation to a bunch of other thugs and said, let's all go full thug life and make an entire religion out of thug life and subjugating people. What you'd want to clarify is that doesn't mean every person who is a Muslim has that same thug mentality. No, people can reinterpret things or not even be aware of things in Islam. And so you can have completely nice non-thugs within Islam. That doesn't mean that the actual thug leaders that Jordan is thinking about here, that doesn't mean that they are not actually in Islam or that they have hijacked Islam. No, the thug life mentality goes all the way back to the origin of Islam.
To Tupac.
Thug.
Leaves
all the way back to Muhammad and Tupac.
Precisely as much room for disagreement about the divine as thugs might be expected to allow, which is none or else. The idea that Islam should govern all aspects of life, from personal behavior to state laws, also directly conflicts with the democratic principle of pluralism and freedom to choose. Remember as well, in keeping with all this, that the punishment for rejecting such claims, the price paid for apostasy, is not infrequently death. There is no manner in which any of this self-evidently aligns with the West.
Thank you.
Yeah. Penalty is frequently death for apostasy in Islam, correct. And, Jordan, this goes back to Muhammad himself, according to their sources. So just know that what you see as the problem here goes back to Muhammad. It's built into the religion. So when you have people who don't do that, it's not that they're having a better view of God. They're just not they're not following it. They're not following it. And it's good that they're not following it. But it's not like, oh, thugs have hijacked this and they say there's a death penalty for apostasy. That position was by the original thug of Islam, Muhammad.
Principles of freedom of thought, religion, and expression. It therefore seems incumbent on those who believe that such commensurability exists to prove that it does.
Did you catch that? Guys, he's making awesome points here. He just said, if you have an ideology that says you have to be executed for changing your mind about the ideology. And we believe in freedom of religion and freedom of expression, meaning if you decide you want to believe something else, you're free to do so. If you believe, you're free to change your mind, and they say, no, changing your mind is a death sentence, those don't seem to go together. They don't seem to fit well together. And therefore, what he just said here, therefore, if you're one of the people, one of the educated elite, or one of the politicians, or one of the journalists that say, no, Islam fits perfectly into the West, you need to show how the burden of proof is on you to show that death for apostasy can go together with freedom of expression, freedom of religion. Show how that works. You show it before you start bringing in millions of people. Show how that works. Give us an idea of how this is working in your mind and how it can actually work in the world. Because an idiot can see that those things don't go together. So if you think we're wrong, show us. And of course, they never do. They just try to silence you and they throw you in prison.
No, they're not idiots. That's why they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly given the aforementioned statistical difference between Muslim and Christian majority societies. Rather than insisting that the burden of proof be put upon the skeptic of the multicultural project.
Did you catch that? Don't put the burden of proof on us to prove that it doesn't work. It obviously doesn't go together. The burden of proof is on you to show that they do somehow go together harmoniously. Show us how that works.
Difference between the societies under consideration, bad as it is in general, is clearly worse for women. Traditional Islamic jurisprudence assigns very different rights and roles to men and women. The typical woman in the authoritarian Muslim countries generally requires a male guardian's permission to marry, travel, or work.
But here's the problem,
David.
Here's the problem. When asked, most Muslims say that they do not agree with radical Islam.
Oh, that's great. I'm just wondering how people like Ali Dawa can stand there and tell you that as soon as he gets power, he's going to watch you be executed, and why this guy can have tons and tons and tons of followers, and none of his co-religionists ever call him out and say, what are you talking about? We don't believe that.
But most Muslims don't agree with Islamic extremism.
Who says that? You're making that up.
When you ask them if you do you agree with Islamic extremism, they say no.
Yeah, they say, no, I don't believe in the extremism. I just believe in Islam, which you would regard as extreme, but I think is just totally normal.
Exactly.
Right?
And this should sound like an obvious joke, but the thing is, you have so many reports and so many studies even which show that most Muslims reject extremism. Are you people stupid, man?
Well, yes, they are.
Are you complete imbeciles?
Yes. There you go.
Share is lesser, typically half. Men can divorce unilaterally with ease, while women cannot. Polygamy is legally allowed in many of the same countries, but polyandry in none. That is by no means all. Women's political participation is severely restricted.
Because Muhammad said the nation that is led by a woman will never succeed.
Dress codes are frequently or even typically severe. Laws against domestic violence are minimal or absent.
Because domestic violence is allowed by Allah. He allows you to beat your wives. And because Muhammad said a man will not be asked as to why he beat his wife. It's none of your business why Abdullah over here is beating his wife into submission. Allah says it.
In some cases, marital rape is not recognized. Or
because there's no rape in Islam is forcing yourself upon a woman that you have no right to have sex with. That's what it is. Yeah, we've seen the clips of mullahs who are totally confused by the very idea that a man could rape his. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How can someone rape
your wife?
How can you rape your wife? You remember that clip, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Criminalized. Access to education and employment is restricted or absent, and women have limited control over their reproductive choices. The judicial system also operates in ways severely biased against women, with their testimonies often valued at less than men's.
Because Muhammad said the testimony of a woman is worth half the testimony of a man. Everything you're pointing out about problems in Muslim societies goes back to Muhammad. And that's the issue, ladies and gentlemen, that we've got all these problems in the Muslim world. And because the elites will not allow the very idea of looking into the Muslim sources for where these problems come from. They have the mindset of, at the end of the day, all people are just like us and share the same values. They say, what do they think? They think all the problems in these Muslim countries are because of bad governments or because of past colonialism. And therefore, let's just bring the people in, bring the people in, bring the people in. What are they bringing in? Islamic ideas, which are the very ideas that lead to the problems in these countries. How is this difficult? What are we saying that a 6-year-old cannot understand? And yet the supposedly smartest and most powerful people among us can't get it at all.
But don't all religions have their problems?
All religions have their problems, so Islam doesn't, you see.
Their access to justice.
Most Muslims don't carry out terrorist attacks, so what's the problem?
Yeah, most Muslims don't do it, so you see, there's no problem.
Impeded. If those who inhabit such countries cannot treat their own mothers, wives, and daughters equally, then their track record for tolerating others, including anyone who does not share their attitudes, religious and otherwise, is unlikely to be good.
Guys, you catch that? If this is how this guy will treat his own wife, he'll just beat the crap out of her, can grape her, whatever he wants, no problem. What do you think he thinks of the non-Muslim girl over there? They've shown you what they think about the non-Muslim. They've shown you the level of contempt they have, and you still don't get it because that's how stupid you are.
But what about the Westboro Baptist Church?
I don't know. Yeah, well, you bring up a valid point. What about the Westboro Baptist guys?
Gangs point to this terrible fact.
There we go.
The testimony from the trials indicates a common and obvious disregard, to put it mildly, for the women concerned. Why? Are we to assume that no cultural reasons whatsoever are relevant? Is the possibility that claimed religious belief is involved, however false that claim might be, is simply to be taken off the table? What explanation?
That's what I mean. It may be false. It may be false that this has something to do with religion. These are my issues here. He's recognizing the problems and recognizing the dangerous levels of ideas you have, one in the countries and among the people. He still seems to be open to the idea that this isn't actually part of Islam and that it's just been hijacked at some point. That would be the main concern. With that said, he's light years ahead of where he was a couple of years ago. But so we have.
He's still kind of naive about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are then left the culpability of host society and victim. That seems to be the tack that we have taken, and that's not so good for us, particularly if we're wrong, and certainly does nothing for the young women involved, except.
Guys, did you catch that? He's saying, so what do we pin this on? What do we pin these problems on and so on? Oh, is it because we're going to blame, because of past colonialism and so on, blah, blah, blah. That's the source of it. And if we just keep doing what we're doing, then we'll eventually fix the problem and so on. Saying, what if you're wrong about that? What if you're wrong about what the actual explanation is? That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's like a big gamble. It's like they're tossing some dice based on complete ignorance. Right? It's like, hey, we think this is the source of the problem and that this is how we'll fix it. It's like, okay, all the evidence shows that you're completely wrong and you're gambling, you're tossing these dice on your entire civilization. And if you're wrong, which you are, it's your you've just destroyed your civilization and you're willing to gamble like that. That's insane.
Blame them and continue to fail in their protection. And there's more with regards to differential vulnerability in relationship to the presumed niceties of the multicultural project. It's an axiom of both psychology and biology that a relationship exists between status or social standing and vulnerability. Animals lower in hierarchical positioning have less opportunity and they suffer more, and exactly the same thing holds for human beings. This means, as the old adage has it, that the working class tends to die of pneumonia when the aristocrats catch cold.
The working class tends to die of pneumonia when the aristocrats catch cold. Meaning, if you have a certain status, that what goes on affects you less. And I think if I recall correctly, where he's going with this is that when the European elites import all these things that cause all these problems, they're causing the problems for the regular people, not for the elites. The elite still lives in his mansion and so on, in his nice area. He doesn't have to deal with the problems that the common people have to deal with, which means that the elites who are making these decisions, they can keep making these decisions that affect everyone else, not them. And they can just get away with it forever.
This is true even in advanced societies, where the reality of absolute rather than relative poverty has been substantively ameliorated. Poorer is not as terrible as poor, but it still has its marked disadvantages. This means not only that political and cultural elites can flaunt and advertise their admirably open-minded cosmopolitan tolerance while remaining protected from the worst aspects of the policies they facilitated, but that the burden of their self-serving error will fall squarely on the working class, and more specifically on the most vulnerable among them. These would be, as they always have been, unprotected adolescent females.
Oh, guys, I do. I really wish he said some things in a way that made them much catchier. What he just said there, I mean, that is like probably one of like a couple of the most important points that needs to be hammered home. You have the elites, and they're saying, here's what we're deciding to do for our society. And this is for their aggrandizement. They're the ones, look how good I am. Look how wonderful and open-minded and tolerant I am, as I'm saying, let's bring in all these people who are screaming, we want to kill apostates and do these things to little girls and so on. Let me show how open-minded and tolerant I am. And all that you get is praised from your peers. It doesn't hurt you in any way. It's not affecting you in any way. Who is it affecting? Jordan Peterson just pointed out. One, the working class. What? But not most. The working class, the regular working class in general aren't the biggest victims. The biggest victims are like the 12-year-old girls. They're the ones who are least protected and most victimized by the decisions of the elites. The elites, haha, look at me, I'm making these great decisions. Okay, who suffers as a result of your decisions? 12-year-old girls. You're patting yourself on the back, you absolute scumbag, making decisions that you don't suffer from, but 12-year-old girls suffer from your decisions, and you're somehow the good guy, throwing 12-year-old girls to people who want to gang rape them, and that makes you the good guy in all of this, you lunatic? That's what he just pointed out. And he's right. He's right. In other words, you shouldn't be, how are these guys patting themselves on the back? When they pat themselves on the back for this, it should be you evil, sadistic scumbags. You egomaniacs, you freaking narcissists. Hey, let me throw 12-year-old girls on the altar of tolerance right here because it makes me look and feel good about myself. You are the worst people in the world. And you think you're the best. You're scum.
This is why he needs to say these things in a more accessible way. Because imagine the impact that this could have if he said it more in that way. How much shareable it could be. How much more shareable it could be. Just those moments for the public to access by Jordan Peterson. This is why somebody should talk to him, and maybe he should rephrase these. Maybe he should do a thing like, here is my speech, and here is the clear version of it, or the accessible version of it.
Hey! Someone should make a channel called Translating Jordan Peterson, and you just play a little clip like that, and you explain it as a regular person.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
We have not even allowed ourselves to know the full scale of the disaster that has befallen such girls. How many have fallen prey to the depredations of the rapists? Is it 250,000, a half, or the full Monty? How many cumulative acts of rape have occurred? We won't allow ourselves to know.
Think about it. You're talking about the estimate that I saw once was around 250,000. 250,000 girls who've been the victims of these grooming gangs and so on. So he says, how many instances of rapes? Well, these girls weren't raped once. They're raped over and over and over and over and over again. So if you're talking about a quarter of a million girls, how many? You're talking about millions and millions and millions of rapes that were happening, that were known to be happening, that were deliberately covered up, so that the same people who are making these decisions don't have to answer for what's happening, and don't have to look like they're somehow bad. And so, hey, and don't want to be called names. They don't want to be called Islamophobes. So they just keep letting it happen. These are the good guys, I remind you, these are the good guys.
Within an order of magnitude. And what of those who have fallen victim? Well, first they were raped brutally, then they were pilloried or even arrested for their hypothetically disorderly behavior. Then they were told to remain silent for the sake of a social cohesion that doesn't truly exist, and gaslit when they dared to speak, and all at the hands of those directly charged with their protection. And all the while, the progressives wrung their God-forsaken hands about Islamophobia, that term for cowards, collaborators, and fools, and hate speech, that term for those who hate speech.
Wow.
Ouch!
Wow.
I feel like this video should actually be like 20 videos, but like broken down and translated for regular people.
That was
brutal.
That was poetic.
Let's go back. You got to hear it again.
And what of those who have fallen victim? Well, first they were raped brutally, then they were pilloried or even arrested for their hypothetically disorderly behavior. Then they were told to remain silent for the sake of a social cohesion that doesn't truly exist, and gaslit when they dared to speak, and all at the hands of those directly charged with their protection. And all the while, the progressives wrung their God-forsaken hands about Islamophobia, that term for cowards, collaborators, and fools, and hate speech, that term for those who hate speech.
I think that's actually a good note to end on. We're a little over halfway through. We're a little over halfway through the clip, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the video.
How did I never think about that, man? Hate speech for those who hate speech.
Hate speech for those who hate speech. Ouch.
It's so obvious.
Ouch, 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 ouch. Good
But
stuff.
it's so satisfying.
Yeah, guys, I would encourage you guys to watch the full video. Again, the link is in the description box. Watch the full video. And for those of you who make content, might want to chop up certain sections of that, share them, comment on them, and so on. Good stuff in that. And again, this is light years ahead of Jordan Peterson from 10 years ago, or even from 2 or 3 years ago. So he is learning some important stuff. By the time you get to the end, he's thinking in terms of the Abraham Accords and how you can, maybe there's hope for the future and so on. And to be clear, I think that lots of good things can happen and so on. No. What I don't think is that it actually solves the core problem, which is Islam actually teaches these things. And so you want to make things better. And if other nations want to decide to get along with Israel and with the West and so on, I think that's good and should be encouraged. But don't let that blind you to the reality of Islam and the problems that Islam causes. But yeah, again, Jordan seems to be increasing his knowledge and understanding and adapting to this increasing knowledge over time. And so that's good. That's good. Because what's he going to be like 3 or 4 years from now? Might be the most powerful Islamophobe ever.
I'm glad he did that whole thing where he told Israel to give him hail, and then the Muslims reacted to it because the Muslims this is the one thing that Muslims cannot accept. I'm so glad that happened, because that really showed Jordan Peterson what kind of monsters, what kind of a terrible culture he's dealing with, actually. Yeah,
so keep in mind, in his mind at that point, when he says give him hell, if you had asked him, hey, Jordan Peterson, what do you think these dawah guys and these Muslim spokesmen are going to think about Hamas jihadis crossing over into Israel, slaughtering men, women, and children, raping the women, killing people, taking hostages back, tossing them into tunnels and so on. When you say, hey, give those terrorists hell, how do you think the ordinary Muslim Dawa guys, spokesman on Twitter, and so, how do you think they're going to react? He probably would have said, well, you'll probably have a couple of people who have a problem with what I'm saying, eh? But since I've talked to these guys before, they're going to agree with me, eh? And they're going to say, yes, you should give these guys hell. And he found out the exact opposite, the hard way. They declared war on him. Insults, rained down a fire of insults and we will teach this guy. We will talk about his daughter. We will insult him and his daughter. Ha ha! We will talk about him doing drugs, and we will talk about his daughter, and we will call her a whore. This will show him. How's that working out for you guys? So yeah, I'm with AP on this. It's good that he went after Hamas on that issue, and it's really good that the Dawa guys did not try to preserve the bridge that he was trying to build, but they bombed the crap out of it, because that caused him to realize what he's dealing with. And even if he has some glimmer of hope in dealing with this problem and thinking maybe this isn't built into Islam, he looks like he's on the right track as far as learning. And so this is good. These are good times, ladies and gentlemen. Good times.
Yeah, there was somebody earlier who was like, yeah, Jordan Peterson is very, very good and on most things, but I wish he also saw things correctly on Israel and all that, or Zionism. I'm not sure what you're talking about, bro. The whole Zionism thing and his support for Israel is actually kind of what turned me around. It gave me a better opinion about him.
Mm-hmm. We have from Only Woods here. Want to build something together like yourselves? No. Nerds, read any exciting books lately? No.
I read the Quran.
Yeah. I normally don't read exciting books. I normally read the books I read are usually not what I would call exciting.
They're called super exciting.
AP, look into Moringa. I have something similar of what you have, the joint pain, and it helped me. Maybe it'll help you. You know that commercial. If your joints are hurting, just get some Moringa. Yeah.
I shall do that. Okay, I'm going to look into it. Yeah.
I just made up that theme song, but Moringa, if you're welcome to use that for your commercial. Convert AP leads to Convert Istanbul, and that leads to Constantinople. The return of Constantinople. They're saying you set it off. You started it. If God didn't exist,
I told them when I get baptized, I'm gonna retake Constantinople. So it's already in motion.
We have, if God didn't exist, what would we expect to see in Diddy's case? Also, is Diddy saved if he drinks communion and glazes the creepy Pope boy? Not sure what you're on about here. If God didn't exist, I wouldn't expect any of this to happen, because I wouldn't expect a universe or individuals or human consciousness or any sort of moral law that would be a problem for what Diddy's doing. Did you guys see the recent Shake It Off on breastfeeding? I actually saw that after I set up this live stream. And then I was thinking, hey, maybe we should go through the Shake It Off video and then talk about the breastfeeding issue. But anyway, I'd already set this one up. So I've pretty much lost everything and now suffering from loneliness. But hearing you say Christ doesn't protect you from suffering, he walks with you through it, is powerful. Thank you, D. Wood. Yeah, I mean, it does suck, but that's you are not in a perfect world yet.
You're not?
Nope, not yet.
That's weird.
Nope, we are in a fallen, messed up world right now. I have a dark theory, no pun intended. When the Muslim gangs started targeting black women, when the Muslim gangs start targeting black women, there will be a civil war. They primarily targeted white women because of Islam, racist origins, and weird fetish for light skin and hair. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the grape gangs in Great Britain, yeah, they're targeting white girls. Yet they do seem to have a fetish, especially Pakistani guys who are in large part the perpetrators do seem to have a fetish for white girls, and you have lots of them who aren't attracted to black girls and so on. But yeah, I mean, there may be a different reaction if they're doing it to non-white girls. Let's donate Gaza with holy camel urine. From an Islamic perspective, you say what? This will clear all the stomach problems.
This will probably solve the problem. This will make you victorious.
Romans 16:16. I want to give you a holy smooch, AP. Yep. Greet one another with a holy smooch. This is what happens when you throw Jordan's pen pal in a prison with solitary confinement.
Powerful.
That's true. Get a pen pal, eh? You see Constantine converted AP. Constantine is very powerful. AP, for the pain, look into crack cocaine or meth. You heard it here. I don't know why you laughing.
Solid suggestion.
AP, you should, and plus you got money to do it. You got a fair amount of money now to carry on a drug problem. AP, you should complete your re-Hellenization by learning Greek and encouraging other Turkish ex-Muslims to do the same. Make a movement out of it. Hey, that would be funny, especially if you're going like Eastern Orthodox. You're like, no, all Turks must convert to Eastern Orthodoxy and learn Greek.
That would be very funny. It would be very cool. I decided to start learning how to read Greek, but learning Greek itself is probably a little bit difficult. I don't know. But what would be better? It would be to just to force all Turks to become Christians as well.
That would be better.
Yeah.
That would be good indeed. We have Cursed Mouse 7. Carnivore diet. I lost 65 pounds. Arthritis, type 2 diabetes gone. AP, look into this for help with gout. See Dr. Ken Berry's vids for good info. Changed my life.
I'm actually really changing my diet and everything right now, like bigly. So working on that. The funny thing is, you know what? I didn't even notice this. Like, it should be quite obvious, but for several years now, I was drinking tea every morning, and I was like dumping tons of sugar in it. And then I noticed, wait a minute, like this is really, 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 really bad for my gout and arthritis and related stuff. I should probably stop that. So anyway, I just decided to stop it and haven't done that for several days, and I feel quite good about it. So.
Huh, that's interesting. I do have to say, yeah, I would look up how certain like a diet, like the carnivore diet and stuff. Like I've thought in the past, because I don't have any of the issues that Jordan Peterson has that the carnivore diet is supposed to solve. But given how radically it seemed to help Jordan Peterson and his daughter, I wouldn't mind at some point just making one of those videos like, I did Jordan Peterson's carnivore diet for 30 days. Here's what happened. And then saying, guys, it didn't do anything. Or, hey, it really helped and something changed or something like this. Or because guys, keep in mind, if you are, I'm just thinking about this as far as nutrition and biology. If you are just eating meat, then you are not getting carbs. Your body can, when you think about protein, fats, and carbs, your body needs protein. Your body needs an external source of protein and fats. You have to have them. You will not function if you do not. You don't actually need carbs because your body can make what it needs out of protein and fats. You do not actually need carbs as a sort. That's why you can have like a keto diet and so on. So anyway, a carnivore diet is going to do something where your body is relying on other sources rather than carbs. And one of the big things is you'll start using ketone bodies instead of just straightforward carbs and so on. And that actually changes like what your brain is using and so on. So anyway, point is, these things can affect you in ways that you do not know. And it's always, you won't know how it's going to affect you unless you actually do it. So anyway, point is, AP, you might want to check out something like that. And it might be something at some, hey, we should do that together at some point. It's like both of us. We'll say, hey, we're gonna do the carnivore diet for 30 days and see what happens. And then we'll say, I became homicidal maniac and killed 10 people. That'd be funny.
I tried a low carb diet at some point. It was actually quite good, but then I stopped.
Because they're weakening. Coleman Hughes pointed out with Dawkins, Scandinavians are the happiest in the world, but religious Scandinavians are even happier. Food for thought. Hey, that's interesting.
That's funny.
So like, oh, but look, Scandinavians are the happiest people in the world. Points out, yeah, but the religious Scandinavians are even happier. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Hey, where'd that happen, Paul? Wouldn't mind checking that out. AP, don't go carnivore unless you want a stroke. What's your response to people saying, wait, and then it goes in a completely different top. AP, don't go carnivore unless you want a stroke.
I don't think I will go to a carnivore diet or anything. I don't buy your carnivore, but
I have to say, you've got all these testimonies about how it helped people. I'm just thinking about it. It seems like that is like disastrous. If I thought, hey, we're just going to eat meat and that's it. It's like, wait, what? Where are you getting all this other stuff that you need?
It sounds to me as bad as going vegan.
Yeah, which is why you'd want to say, have your vegetables and your meat too. Then you're getting the best of both worlds. And that's weird. I have to say, I would probably be more persuaded to go carnivore before I'd go vegan. And I don't care if you're watching this, Tarun. Okay, so we have AP, don't go carnivore unless you want a stroke. What's your response to people saying Islam isn't evil because peace treaties exist with places like Egypt?
Well, that has nothing to do with Islam. Egypt is led by a secular government, and was mostly led by a secular government with the first and only attempt to install an Islamic government. It led to a big outrage and was taken down brutally, which happened a little bit over 10 years ago. That has nothing to do with Islam.
Yeah,
nothing to do with Islam. And even if you have Islamic governments here and there, they can figure out occasionally to make peace. But does that really mean that therefore Islam is not a problem? Of course not. Look at the history of Islam. Look at what Islam commands. Look at how Islamic societies generally unfold. Look at how Islam rules internally. Look at how minorities in Muslim countries are doing, and so on.
Yeah, so in general, UPZYYS, the anti-carnivore spokesman of the world, you don't judge an ideology based on the people who veer away from it. You judge it based on what it actually teaches and the people who actually adhere to it. And so Egypt adheres to it in a sense because you have a Muslim majority population and so on. But anything you would look at and say is peaceful. Islam calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world. That, at the end of the day, that's what it calls for. And so if someone isn't doing that or doesn't think they're able to do that yet and therefore doesn't do it, that does not mean that Islam doesn't call for that. Islam is defined not by, Islam is not, has never been, and never will be defined by Egypt or by some other country. Islam is defined by the Muslim sources, and it is not pretty. Carnivore diet really hard during Lent. I give up everything except steak for Lent. AP, any fashion styling tips? Also, any tips on quitting my meth addiction? David, you need some Cartier buffs in Jesus' name. I don't know what any of this means.
I would say do exactly what you're doing. Do exactly what you're doing right now.
Oh, okay. There you have it. There you have it. Either of you seen Passion of the Christ? Yeah, I went to see the Passion of the Christ with Shabir Ali years ago.
I saw it several times, and in the past, I kind of respected it a little bit more than quite recently. I tried watching it again recently, and compared it to watching the older movie, Jesus of Nazareth, and now I really like the Jesus of Nazareth movie and find the whole Passion of Christ movie a little bit weird.
Yeah, I never saw the Jesus of Nazareth film.
What?
With
Dare you?
What's really going for the Passion of the Christ was, I mean, you had this really awesome big budget movie directed by Mel Gibson and so on. And I have to say, the scourging in lots of Christian movies is not Roman scourging. They called the scourging the half death because you'd be half dead by the time the scourging was finished. But it wasn't just meant to randomly beat you. It was meant to weaken you, right? They didn't want some strong young rebel against the Roman Empire kicking and fighting as they're trying to put nails into this guy, right? They wanted you by the time you were getting crucified to be like, oh, fine, just get it over with and have no energy left. Hence the lashing and letting your blood drain out of you and so on. So anyway, what was interesting was because I remember watching it and at first they start beating him with rods. And I was thinking, they would have been using a flagrum and it would have been way, way, way bloodier than this. And all of a sudden they pull out a flagrum and I'm like, whoa, they're not going to show this, are they? And yeah, they showed it. So that was the benefit. With that said, there may be better movies than that. I don't know.
I heard some expert analysis takes on the amount of blood and torture in the movie, The Passion of Christ, and the general perspective seems to be that in reality it was probably much worse than what you see in the movie.
Not pretty. I tried the carnivore diet and lived to 200 years old. I went carnivore, lost 10 pounds, all joint pain, and my anxiety attacks almost completely disappeared and had a lot more energy. Highly suggest. This is interesting that there are all these people here who tried this diet that I thought was probably 10 people in the world tried it.
You're a goat. How do you go carnivore? What are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
All I do is eat my fellow goats.
AP, what about redubbing D. Wood's Islamic Dilemma into Turkish and German? D. Wood, what do you think about it? Well, AP wouldn't need to do that, but Abu Haruf, just be patient. We are doing our big Islamic Dilemma project, but at the end, one of the goals will be to make some select videos which give awesome presentations of the Islamic Dilemma and to get people to translate them into as many languages as possible. But the goal will be getting people to actually record their own videos in other languages with the Islamic Dilemma video. With that said, I've gotten a notification for YouTube that they're about to start having auto dubbing in other languages, where it's like AI. Anyone can click on a video. Anyone can click on your video and it'll be auto dubbed in another language. So I don't know how successful that's going to be or whether that, I think that will be pretty good. I think it'll be pretty good and will actually help people in other languages watch videos and stuff. I don't think it will be nearly as good as people actually translating videos for themselves and re-recording it in their own languages and so on. So, but yeah, we will get some redubs, Abu Ahruf, and it will be based. Warning about carnivore diet. I did it and started getting cramps in my sleep. You need to at least include fruit and other things. Well, if you're including fruit, then what are you doing? You're basically having a normal diet. But no, I don't even know what the requirements are and stuff like that. But by the way, what you just said is what I would anticipate. I would anticipate different people reacting differently. I would anticipate some people will be like, "Oh, I did this and it helped me with this problem," and I would expect other people, "I did this and it screwed everything up." And that's people have different body chemistries and body types and metabolisms and things like that, and so they're going to react differently. And so, at the end of the day, if someone recommends something, you want to try it for a while and see what happens, and maybe it helps, and maybe it's a disaster. Breads G says, "Love your chug jug, David." Yeah, me too. I've had that thing for a long time, but I always had to keep refilling things during live streams until I started using that big one. Like I've still got my Jihadi Tears mug, but when I use this, I have to actually. This is just a regular size mug. It looked big when I was holding it out here, but just a regular size mug. What I need is I need? I need a Jihadi Tears mug, but like the size of the other one, because this one I have to refill like 4 or 5 times and have to actually have a big jug of whatever I'm drinking right beside it. So, no stroke. Ugh. Don't blindly believe all you read. Yeah, don't have a stroke.
People can have different reactions.
That's true. Hi to you both. What are your opinions about India, the right-wing Hindu nationalist movement, which is essentially against Islam, but does not have the right moral code to begin with? I would say I don't. I encourage resistance against Islam. I would have concerns. Basically, anytime you have, so here you have Hindu nationalists, right? Any kind of nationalism that is tied to a specific ideology, you have to wonder, okay, how are people who don't share that ideology going to be treated in that country, and so on. And in India, it kind of varies from region to region. I've had people from India say, "Hey, we're horribly treated here." I've had people in India say, "I've never once had a problem in my entire life with Hindus. They're always nice to me." So it kind of depends on the region. But that's the problem with Islam, ladies and gentlemen. You can have a bunch of people all living together. Islam enters the picture and starts causing problems, and then you get the reaction to those problems. And one reaction is to strengthen your group and make your group respond to that. But once you have a group that is saying, "Hey, we won't tolerate any of this," they can always lash out in every direction and stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't really know enough about things in India to comment. I'm just saying, like, in general, that's an issue. That's an issue over here. That's an issue over here. It's an issue everywhere. Once Islam starts screwing things up, you had a kind of equilibrium. People are getting along. Islam enters the picture, and then people a group has to get more aggressive in order to confront Islam. So some group or multiple groups are going to become more aggressive in order to respond to Islam. But guess what? Now you have more aggressive groups. That doesn't mean those more aggressive groups are only going to go after Islam. They could go after things in general. So anyway, those are kind of general concerns. But yeah, again, I don't know enough about what's going on in India.
Yeah, the problem with Hindu nationalists is that they're not like us, and they have different reactions to different groups. And while I do understand their reactions to Islamic attempts to impose their own values and all of that, and I would totally support their reactions to such things, I have just seen on too many occasions them also treating Christians very poorly for very, very simple reasons. Like, I don't know, Christians caught spreading the gospel, talking to people, and then being therefore lynched and brutally attacked by Hindu nationalists, and this being defended online by other Hindu nationalists because they see this basically equal to Muslims trying to conquer India, because they say, we have only one Hindu country. We don't want anyone doing missionary stuff here. If you do it, then you deserve to be attacked, and so on. So there are these sentiments that are very, very problematic. That said, there are also good aspects of it. I don't know what to think. I just want to stay out of that.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, right?
Yes.
So if Islam is confronting a culture, you need a group, usually the biggest group in that culture, to rise and stand against it. But again, when that happens, it usually happens by, we have to protect ourselves from groups that are trying to influence us, and that won't just be, Islam won't be the only thing targeted as a result of that, even though Islam is the group that's causing the problem. So we'll have to see what happens. David, I love your big mug. So awesome. I love how rotten you are. We need more rotten Christian. I can see the pure hatred in your eyes. Is Diddy saved? Why would I think for a second that Diddy is saved? India poop war. What is this? Jake Pual? Just sending love and support. Low carb diet is best. Don't skip your broccolis. Everyone who identifies as Muslim should be. What? Why you want to deport people, man? Reverse Sharia. That's what
you see. David said we should. David says we should have mass migration. You see.
Carnivore diet cured my addiction to meth and coke. What's funny is I don't know. People could have some reaction. I can't even tell if it's like, no, it actually worked. I was addicted and I did this and it totally changed my system, or if it's just joking. Maybe
that's serious.
I would guess joke, but I have seen some extreme reactions to some of that, which is why I would say if you're having problems that other people have had problems with and they think that some diet has helped them or something like that, you might want to try it. Worst case scenario, you try it for a month and doesn't help, and now you know. Coleman Hughes podcast, Human Mind into the Unknown with Richard Dawkins, 3940. Religious people are happier in secular societies than other groups. That is important. I might want to, I'm definitely going to check that out, and I will, if it looks like a good clip, I might want to make my own little video about that. Opinions on Baha'i and how it relates to Islam. Once again, I mean, I've heard from Baha'i people and stuff over the years. I generally don't like talking about things that I know very, very little about.
All I know about it is that it's an offshoot of Islam. I don't know anything else about it, so I always wanted to talk to one of those people. Didn't get to do it ever.
They would humiliate you.
Those people.
Hey, we should make a video like talking to a Baha'i person, but it's like fake and he acts exactly like a Dawa guy. Listen here, boy. You. That'd be funny. Nerd tears are 100% kosher. Should make a Nerd Tears mug, or better yet, hey, how about a Wingaling Tears mug? Start drinking out of that. Is gamble sinful if I only win? Is gambling sinful if I only win? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I have to think about. Like if you had money that you. I think there would be obvious situations where it wouldn't be a problem. Like suppose you have money, you don't need it, you have an excess. It's not going to hurt your family or anything if you lose it, and you go to some charity card game where all the money's going to charity. So you know your money's going to charity or something like that. I would say clearly I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you're gambling to get rich or something like that, I don't know. It's I'm sure there are people who have official positions on this. I've never thought about, is this because I don't have a gambling issue, so I'm not gambling and stuff. So I'm kind of not thinking through it.
Thinking carefully. Way too much about the question.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's would be my answer. When I tried carnivore, my dad finally came back from the grocery store with some milk. Let's see. We have carnivore cured my wingalingism. Oh, well, then the carnivore diet is my chosen preferred diet. Everyone should go carnivore and be cured of your wingalingism. Hey, look, we have Tarun here. What is the difference between a vegan, atheist, and Muslim? One, if for all gods but one. Okay, one is for all gods but one. One is for all gods ever. And the last is for meat and milk. So vegan is for all gods but one. One is for all. Atheist is for all gods ever, and the last is for meat and milk. Oh, they're not in that order. So vegan, you're avoiding meat and milk. Atheist, you are rejecting all gods ever, and Muslim, you're rejecting all gods but one. That's actually good assessment. Meth and coke cured my addiction to carnivore diet. That's good. Powerful. We have Jake Pual says, gambling diet cured my depression. That's good. And then we have Alex who says, mashallah, Brother David, did you know Islam was first to start carnivore diet? Muhammad invented the carnivore diet. How is this possible? Roof. David definitely had a gambling addiction and has been to a few Diddy freak-offs. That's true. Mashallah. Yes. Yes. Tons of baby oil. That's why I have bottles of baby oil everywhere. I don't even know what the situation, because I didn't follow the case. I don't know what I know it had something to do with baby oil, because it's basically, I was talking to Vocab. We were talking about whether we should have Diddy in the boom boom room and stuff. And he said, yeah, you got to have bottles of baby oil all over the place. I was like, uh-oh. I don't even want to add.
They found kind of tons of baby oil in his place or something. I don't know.
Interesting stuff. And AP, how's your Ramadan going?
Very based.
It's very based. You heard it here, folks. AP's Ramadan is going very basedly. How much do we have left? Gosh, we're only halfway through Ramadan, man. I got to start posting more about. I'm gonna need to start posting more about Ramadan.
Wait, it's Ramadan right now?
Yeah, I got to start posting more of my before and after pictures, and then when we get to the end of the month, it's funny. I'm still waiting for Eid al-Fitr. because I got 2 jokes. I already shared with you one. Hey, Adolf Hitler sounds exactly like Adolf Hitler. Coincidence? I'm just going to post that. And then my other one is Adolf Hitler, more like Adolf Fatter. And I post a before and after picture. See, guys, you got to come up with your jokes like way in advance, so you're ready for them.
Powerful.
It's going to be based. So how's your Ramadan going? Last couple here. Pity grandpa hat cured my Tovia Singer addiction. That's good. I tried the carnivore diet. It made my dad finally say he's proud of me and came back to the family. Keto fixed a lot. How did this become a diet show? All because of Jordan Peterson's carnivore diet. Keto fixed a lot of my health issues, but couldn't solve the Islamic dilemma. Sorry, Muslims. That's good. Keto can, and the carnivore diet, they can solve all kinds of things. Nothing. Hey, hang on. Don't let me forget. I'm going to screenshot this just for that sounds like that could be an ongoing joke. This solved this, but it couldn't solve the Islamic dilemma. Guys, keep that in mind. Don't let me forget this. I'm seriously asking some of you to remind me. 99.9% of the plans I come up with and I say, hey, this is a good idea, I forget about them 10 minutes later and I never think about them again. This is one because we're going through our Islamic dilemma project. We're going through the entire Quran. Going to find every verse in the Quran that has anything to do with the previous scriptures. Look up we're going to go through the commentary. We're going to come up with the most thorough, perfect formulations of the Islamic dilemma ever. We're going to translate them into multiple languages, but then comes the issue of popularizing it. And so how do we popularize it? But some jokes like this, anytime anyone's posting, this solved this, the response should be instant. Oh, that solves that, but it couldn't solve the Islamic dilemma. And link to the video. That's actually perfect, Isaac. As I pointed out, I may not remember this idea, so someone will remind me of it, and I will use it. So I probably will not remember to give you. Matter of fact, I guarantee I will not remember to give you credit. But when you see it happening, Isaac, you can have bragging rights and say, "Hey, I'm the one who said that." AP, use your Diddy grandpa hat. Again, no. Hey, I keep forgetting. Why do they call it that? Did Diddy wear that hat? Why do they call it a Diddy hat? Did he wear that? Why are they calling it a Diddy hat?
I don't think it has anything to do with Diddy.
Why do they call it a Diddy hat and a Diddy grandpa hat? I don't know either. Okay. I'm a Christian and keep having dreams about very Christian ordeals, salvation and baptism. How do you know if dreams are from God or your own imagination? That is an ongoing issue, and I would not be the best one to talk about that because it's not an issue I've ever been interested in, except for when I actually saw a distinction. So I could give you a brief experience of that. When Nabil had Nabil prays, but Nabil gets to a point where he's saying, okay, I see the case for Christianity and I see a case for Islam. What do I do? I don't know how to decide, because by that point he's thinking, I'm a human being and I have all sorts of biases and I've been taught to be a Muslim, but I've been hearing from other people. And so I'm biased. I don't know if I'm even capable of looking at this objectively and making a decision. And he says, therefore, God, you have to give me a sign of what to believe. So could you give me a vision? Right after that, he got a vision. He says the room faded to black and he saw crosses everywhere. But Nabil also understands what you're pointing out right now. How do I know I'm not imagining this? How do I know? How do I know that this is actually a message from God? So he says, okay, how about a dream? Then he has a dream. He told me the dream. Very symbolic. And there was nothing in the dream. I mean, when you go through the symbols, it was a very Christian message about Christ coming and saving him from Islam. With that said, it was symbolic. And how does he know that that's not just coming from his own imagination? How does he know he's not wrestling with these ideas and then he had a symbolic dream or something like that, and that why should he take that seriously as something from God? So he asked for a dream that he doesn't need to interpret. He then asked God for a dream he doesn't need to interpret. His next dream is one where he dreamed himself into a parable in the Gospel of Luke. And it's funny because he hadn't read that parable in Luke. He hadn't read it. And he calls me up and he asks me, hey, could you interpret this dream? And it's about being at a feast and him being locked outside of the feast, and I'm inside at the feast and stuff. And he's saying, "Hey, how would you interpret this?" And I'm like, "Man, dude, open your Bible." And we went to Luke, and he said he opened it and it said the narrow door. And he said what he remembered from his dream was this narrow door. It was just wide enough for him to get through. And he looks inside and he sees all these people at the feast inside. And he says, and then he opens the Bible and it says the narrow door. And it's so he read that. Anyway, the point there is that when I heard his first dream, I'm thinking, why should I take this seriously? I barely listened to him when he's telling me his first dream because I'm like, what do I care if you dream, man? I don't run around telling you my dreams. The second dream, that's where I'm like, whoa, what your dream is exactly what's in this parable, and you've never read this parable before. That is interesting to me. And then later he tells me, oh yeah, well I actually prayed. And by the way, it actually tied together because he calls me up. He's like, hey, how would you interpret this dream? And I said on the phone, I don't need to interpret your dream at all. It's right out of the Bible. And then I showed him the Bible. But he said those words when I said, I don't need to interpret that dream. It's exactly what he had prayed. He had prayed, God, can you give me a dream that doesn't require me to interpret it? And so anyway, so my takeaway would be the android sent by CyberLife. Sometimes you can't tell because you can have multiple explanations. This could be in other areas too. It's like, suppose I'm sick and I pray to God to get better and I get better. Well, guess what? It could be my immune system, or it could be God. It could be God doing something. So how do I know? Well, sometimes you just wouldn't. So if you have a dream that could be something from God, or it might not be, it might just be your own thinking, I would not be able to make a call in that situation. Other times, if it's, if there's some indication that the evidence points more strongly in the direction of something from God, like I've heard of examples of this where a Muslim has a dream about a person coming to their town to share some message, and then a Christian preacher who looks exactly like the one they dreamed about shows up to their town the next day or something like this. So I've heard of things like that where I'd say, okay, yeah, that clearly sounds like God. Anyway, long story short, I would not know. I have some thoughts on this, but I don't know how you would always decisively decide whether something is from God or not.
You know who also had a dream?
Martin Luther King Jr.
No, I had a dream, but it was meaningless. But here's my question: what if lots of people around you and in your life and online and here and there always say stuff like, I asked for a dream, or I asked for a sign and it was given to me and this convinced me, and so on. But you also asked for years and forever, but something like that never happens to you. What then?
Well, nothing. You didn't have any guarantees.
I know.
Yeah, you can't say it's like, hey, this guy prayed for a miraculous healing and was miraculously healed, but I prayed for a miraculous healing and I didn't get. So what am I supposed to do with that? Well,
nothing.
Yeah.
But what if you just really just want to have such an experience, but it never happens to you? You just have to deal with that.
Yep.
Okay.
And you might. It's interesting because so Nabil, I always thought it's like why would you not? I get why you wouldn't fully trust your own faculties and stuff. We all have limited knowledge and so on, things like that. But the dreams always seemed like a weird way to determine the will of God to me, because it's just like, again, with a couple of exceptions where I was like, okay, that looks like you actually, that looks like something special. What just happened there? In general, just like, oh, I had a dream telling me to do this, I would be like, why would you take that as some awesome evidence when it's a dream? And I mean, like, in other words, if I had a dream tomorrow saying, David, you need to convert to Buddhism, that would not be, I would not even be a consideration. Not because it's Buddhism, because I wouldn't trust a dream as some sort of authority, or unless it had something really, really special or something like that happen in it, I would not take it seriously. If once you do, and I don't even know if people know this about Nabil, those of us close to him do, because his conversion was so influenced by his vision and his dreams. After he became a Christian, he would make decisions about what to do based on dreams. And he would encourage other people, when they're trying to make a decision, to ask God for dreams telling them what to do. And I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, you've got examples of people being told in the Bible what to do in dreams. That has happened. But as far as this is how you get this is how you make decisions as a Christian, that seems weird. That seems weird. You should be reading the Bible and surrounding yourself with good Christians. And as time goes on, you become wiser and wiser in your decisions. So just sit around saying, okay, God, tell me what to do in my dream. I don't know. There seems something weird about that. And so that would be my concern with the dreams is, I mean, obviously, and I've seen it. I've seen dreams being helpful to Muslims. So I believe God can, again, biblically, God could give people dreams. And here, centuries later, centuries after the Bible, you still see people getting dreams. And sometimes it seems like actual divine, a message from God. But as far as that being the general Christian way of getting information, I see zero indication of that. So you'd have to be concerned. God tells you through your dreams to convert and so on, but then you come to think, oh, this is how I decide what to do and so on. Anyway, that would be my concern, is taking it too far and then replacing how you actually should be making decisions as a Christian.
So what you're saying is that dreams are completely meaningless and worthless.
That's what I just said. The reason why some Hindu extremists go after Christians is because they associate Christianity with England, which invaded and ruled us for 200 years. Yes, we know, but that is a concern, right? Because you can always, again, have a kind of equilibrium where people are getting along, and then one group becomes more extreme, or more aggressive, and they could become more aggressive in response to something like Islam. But as that group becomes more aggressive, guess what? It was not that long ago that you had Great Britain controlling India and stuff. And so you still have underlying hostility that people can use, and therefore not just go after Muslims once you become more aggressive, but go after anyone who's ever done anything to you. And so it's just a concern, because guess what? You'll have Christians there who've never done anything to anyone, who've never hurt anyone, but they could be targets. So anyway, but yeah, we'll have to see. Keep an eye on it. Otherwise, we have Tarun here. Otherwise, from that almost exact same behavior, same lying, bias, propaganda, hatred for all they hate, only that vegans and atheists are not terrorists.
Prove it.
Vegans are terrorists.
Vegans are the biggest terrorists.
Tarun, you've terrorized almost every live stream we've ever done with your veganism.
Vegans are the biggest terrorists. I have never seen bigger terrorists than vegans.
Mm-hmm. The gambling are the carnivores of the P. Diddy. The gambling are the carnivores of the P. Diddy. What? To all carnivore haters. Too funny, lol. Carnivore haters. Urinating upon one another. Urinating upon one another cured my what doubts, man. Nice. Carnivore diet improved my daily wood on mornings. What is wrong with all these people? David, if I lose my house gambling, then win it back and some more, then go buy a Lambo yacht, then practice Ramadan, is it still sinful? Not if that all ends with you practicing Ramadan and gorging yourself with piles of food every day.
There you go.
It's Diddy hat because AP wears it at freak parties. Oh, that's why it's called Diddy hat. AP wears it at the freak party. Have you seen the Quran translation by Saint Murad? Quran is wilder than we expected it to be. No, I didn't. I haven't. You familiar with that?
No.
Spouse dreams, asking for a friend. You mean dreams about your spouse?
Or dreams about a potential spouse.
Oh, dreams about a potential spouse. Oh, I had a dream about my buddy's 6-year-old girl. That's what Muhammad did. That's why I would not take that seriously. Oh, if I had a dream about a 6-year-old girl, I would go to a psychiatrist. I had a dream, and in that dream, I was naked on a Ferris wheel. Well, that's telling you that you need to get naked on the Ferris wheel. Momo had a dream of Aisha. There we go. Momo had a dream of Aisha, so it must be from Allah. That's what Muhammad said. This must be from Allah, and if it's from Allah, it will come true. And it is coming true, because shocker, I have since I'm the prophet, I have the ability to tell my followers what to do. It's so weird how all this worked together. I had a dream a big bottle of oil was magically spinning in the air. It grew, wingspan flew down to the earth. Then I seen Diddy in the mosque reciting Surah 4, verse 34.
Wow.
That's weird because I had the exact same dream, so we have miraculous corroboration. I had a dream I was watching Mike Winger. Threw up as soon as I woke up. That is the normal reaction. And finally, do you think the Second Amendment may be a factor in slowing grading gangs here? Vegans are terrorists. We have confirmation that vegans are terrorists. I think you're talking about the grooming gangs. No, I would assume it's just a different situation here. You had, when you bring in a bunch of people in the UK, which has a compared to the US, it's much smaller and has a smaller population. Then when you bring people in, they're a more significant percentage of the population. And they were bringing them in mainly to just cities, and they were bringing in tons of Pakistani guys, and to the point where you had entire Pakistani communities, and they're right beside these working class 12-year-old girls. You don't have the exact same situation that you have immigrants and so on, and they could go to cities and so, but you don't have it. It doesn't affect things the same way it does a much smaller country with that many people packed into certain little areas and stuff, where they now become they start taking over areas of a city, right? So you just haven't had that to this extent over here. So no, I don't know that Second Amendment is a factor. I think it would always be a factor if you think, I mean, just from like breaking into houses and stuff when I was young, the thought of people having guns is a deterrent to certain things. And so it may play a role. I'd have to see some evidence that is like an important factor. Then we have a benefit of the carnivore diet is a clearer mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala approved my brethren camel pee and goat boogers made me a great milkshake. Nasty.
That's good.
And potential spouse. Oh, potential spouse. So dreams about a potential spouse.
Always legitimate. Always legitimate. Always follow.
Yeah, I would find it very difficult to dream about a potential spouse and say, oh, that is a dream. And God is telling me that's my spouse. I mean, think about it. I mean, again, that was Muhammad deciding to bang Aisha on that basis. Yeah, rough stuff. All right, guys. Not sure when we will be back like bell-bottom jeans. But we've checked out what Jordan Peterson had to say. Again, we're about halfway through that video, so if you want to finish it, the link is in the description box. Apart from that, we shall return soon. And it will be dope and epic and very based. So we'll see you all. Hang on, one last comment. AP, welcome to the kingdom of God, brother. Also, great job being a blue-haired homo on Boom Boom. My siblings loved it. David looked good too. Wink.
Thank you. That was my favorite role.
And that's from Woke
Very natural.
Yeah. And that's from Woke Veggie, so you know it's good. All right, everyone. We will catch you next time.